Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this meeting this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Waverly, Iowa. We are convened here on Monday, February 19th, 2024. It is 7 o'clock and this meeting is called to order. Wow, a full house. This is great. Mr. Knudsen, welcome to our guest council person. It's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Let's begin. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council. You have in front of you an agenda that's also been available to the public. Can I have a motion?
I will move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? I hear none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Council, you have in front of you the minutes from January 29th, the study session, and also a set of minutes from February 3rd, the budget work session. May I have a motion?
I will move approval of the January 29th, 2024 study session work session minutes, the February 3rd, 2024 budget work study session minutes, and the February 5th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I hear none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passed unanimously. Oh, speaking of being unanimous, Councilperson Myers is not going to join us tonight. She's had a family emergency, so we'll be a total of 6 voters. I'd like to make a presentation of certificates of appreciation to those people that served on the Economic Development Commission. If you're present, if you join me at the lectern. Mr. Robert Frederick.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your service to the city of Waverly.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's a delight. Appreciate it.
Mr. Steve Egley. Oh. Mr. Eric Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay. We're giving away a lot of appreciation, then. Cheers. Judy Lampy. Cindy Canny. Paulie Geis. Katrina Lucas. Danielle McKenzie. And Edie Wallstein. We thank all of them for their service to the city. We'll turn now to item F. These are public hearings. Public hearing number 1. This is the date, the time, and the place for a public hearing to approve Resolution 24-23, a resolution reviewing and approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated costs for the remodel of the existing Parks Maintenance Building Phase 2 project. The Mayor and City Council will entertain any comments now on this topic. After all comments, the hearing will be declared closed and the following actions will be considered. Carla, have you received any written or oral comments?
I have not, Your Honor.
Thank you. To the audience, is there anyone who's come to speak to Resolution 24-23? I see none. This public hearing is now closed. I ask the council for a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-23, a resolution reviewing and approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the remodel of the existing Parks Maintenance Building Phase 2 project.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I hear none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm on to...
I think it's roll call.
Oh, it is. Thank you. You're the best. Carla, would you call the roll, please?
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rothi.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
That was unanimous. Thank you. We'll move now to 1A, Resolution 24-24. This is a resolution awarding the remodel of the existing Parks Maintenance Building Phase 2 project to Mätt Construction of Sumner, Iowa. May I have a motion?
I'll move approval Resolution 2424, a resolution awarding the remodel of the existing Parks Maintenance Building Phase 2 project to Mätt Construction of Sumner, Iowa for the bid amount of $584,775.00.
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, we'll give that to Brian. Any discussion? I hear none. This will also be a roll call vote. Carla?
Drinkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Thank you, that passed unanimously. I'm on to item G. Now, these are public comments, but they are limited to items which are not on the agenda. So comments about the budget will come later. So if there's anyone who would like to come make a comment about something which is not appearing on the agenda tonight, please step forward now,
I have a point of order question.
please.
So if we want to ask questions about the pool, but it would cross over the current fiscal budget, it's not on the agenda, but would also cross into the budget discussion that's discussed under item I2, where would you like us to speak?
I too, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. Good question. Item H is the consent calendar. Friends, this is a bunch of standard items, mostly bills to pay and liquor licenses. We take them as a group. So unless someone wants to pull one of these 9 items out, I would like a motion. Motion on the consent item?
I will move approval of consent calendar.
Thank you. That's a motion second. Any discussion?
I did want to point out that I was looking at the Lucky Wife wine slushies.
Yes, we're all.
Liquor license, which seems to be just a weekend license at the center for like the spring craft show. So that was my impression. Is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, anyone got?
Okay.
Yes?
So
Yes.
I looked at the location and found it was the center and was kind of surprised, so.
I think that we are all looking forward to Lucky Wife wine slushies at the
Yeah.
center. Good question. Any more discussion on the consent calendar? I hear none. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous at 6. We'll turn now to item I, number 1, a review of the Historic Preservation 2022 Certified Local Government Annual Report and Annual Update to the City Council. Friends from Historic Preservation, what do you got for us?
Good evening, Council and Honorable Mayor. I am Chris Brunkhorst. I am co-chair of the Waverly Historic Preservation Commission. And due to health reasons, I was able to take on a co-chair, Darius Robinson, and Michael Pinnaker is here to say a few words, and then I would like to introduce other commission members who are in the audience, if you would please stand. Karen Lehman, Mary Meyer, Bard Mackey,
All right, according to the city code, the purpose of this commission is to, 1, promote the educational, culture, economic, and general welfare of the public through the recognition, enhancement, and perpetuation of sites and districts of historical and cultural significance, safeguard the city's historic, aesthetic, and culture heritage by preserving sites and districts of historic and cultural significance, stabilize and improve property values, foster pride in the legacy of beauty and achievements of the past, protect and enhance the city's attractions to tourists and visitors, and the support of stimulus to business thereby provided, strengthen the economy of the city, and promote the use of sites and district of historic and cultural significance as places for the education, pleasure, and welfare of the people of the city.
and as you may know, each year we have to prepare a CLG report on what we have done the previous year, and so that's what the quick, short PowerPoint is for that you all have copies of too. So basically in 2023, Historic preservation increased the footprint in the community by collaborating with several historic entities in town, including, but not limited to, the library, the chamber, the Irish Sturtevant Historical House, the Bremer County Historical Museum, the city, parks, leisure services, and through marketing and PR through UNI's Fort Upon project. And each year, the mayor does proclaim May as Historic Preservation Month, and so that will be coming up again for you guys this year. And we have some celebrations planned that you'll be hearing about later on. So then we always typically create a subcommittee to work on historic projects and events. And last year, obviously, was the 2023 Historic or National Preservation Month dedication of the Greenbridge Memorial. So as you remember, council tasked the Historic Preservation Commission with coming up with a menu of ideas to do something to commemorate the Green Bridge, and this was the third and final component of that. And so now that is complete. Go ahead. And thank you to Brian Benham for his guidance and project leadership, because his Go Hawk manufacturing class is the one that created, designed, and made this memorial for us. So, and the plaque on that just tells a little of the story about it. And so then we honored the Waverly Shellrock Go Hawk manufacturing students, the design and fabrication students. So what an awesome project that is. So then the next one is just kind of a before and after, and what the site looked like and what the site looks like now. Okay. And then, again, this was the third memorial for Waverly's Green Bridge. And then that was the Courier article about that. Okay. And just kind of our homage to the Green Bridge through signage on poster board. Okay. So, and then we also honored preservation local awards to Jim and Michelle Fisher, and to Philip and Natasha Hoffman, and for the last National Bank building that is downtown. Okay. And then we did a thank you to outgoing members Don Meyer and Justin Jeffcoat Shetler, and Council Liaison Brian. Okay. And last summer we hosted and toured Waverly Historic Sites with Certified Local Government Coordinator from the Iowa State Historic Preservation Office, Allison R. Chambo. And so we spent the afternoon, a very hot July afternoon, touring some of the downtown historic sites, First Street Southwest, Farmers Exchange Building, the Irish Sturtevant House, some of those sites. And then she came to our meeting to see what we do, and she praised us because not every Historic Preservation Commission across the state of Iowa meets every single month. So that was something that she praised us for doing, and all the work that we're doing to be proactive with historic preservation. So, and then annually we attend the Preserve Iowa Summit, which is a premier conference for professionals and volunteers involved in historic preservation in Iowa, and we will be sending at least 2 representatives again this year. So I would like to close with saying thank you for your support for all the projects that we do and we come up with, and specifically for honoring those sites. And Darius would like to talk a little bit about what we will do in 2024, and then we'll be done.
Good evening. For 2024, we're looking at continuing some goals that we've already laid the foundation for. We have 3 goals. First, we look to increase our footprint still in the community by specifically collaborating on our annual Preservation Month event in May, which is tentatively set right now for May 11th at Harrington Cemetery here in Waverly. And we're also going to be launching a table tent project with local businesses to increase the community's historical knowledge while they have dinner or buy products downtown or at local restaurants. Second, we'll look to maintain and develop relationships with local entities. We'll continue to foster a relationship with the Waverly Public Library to continue to look for historical materials and to continue to add to our Preservation Month displays, our 1868 poster maps, and our special archival projects. We'll also collaborate with the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, and of course you as the City of Waverly as we look to do projects with the hydroelectric powerhouse, renovations, signage in parks, and the Palace Theater renovations. Finally, we look to continue to explore designation of additional historic districts in Waverly or creation of additional awards or honorifics for notable historical entities. There we go. We look to finish our signage for the Wartburg College Historic District, maintain ongoing discussions about getting a historic survey for the northeastern quadrant, and reinstate select designated sites and devise a marker system for additional historic recognition and to commemorate Waverly's vanished landmarks and significant places around our great community. Those are our goals looking forward, and we're looking forward to an exciting year and having each of you at the May event, and hope to see you at a few meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Brunkhorst. Thank you, and Darius, of course. I'm particularly impressed by all the collaboration that your commission does. Thank you to all the commissioners. City Council, do you have any questions or comments for this commission?
I guess I have just one comment, Darius.
Yes, sir.
I was at the Waverly Brewing Company Sunday afternoon, and they have a large picture of what used to be one of the breweries here in Waverly. Giant structure, 3-4 stories tall, and smokestacks and all that kind of stuff. And we were discussing where that actually was located. I think, if I remember right, it was maybe where the Nestle plant is now.
Okay.
Something like that. But it would really be a nice project to be able to identify some of those historic buildings that have long been gone and put markers or some other recognition that, at one time this building was located in this spot and had an impact on, the city of Waverly. I know that the canning, I think there was a canning factory over where Myers Pharmacy is now, that burned down, if I remember correctly. Before my time, I seem to remember seeing pictures of it, but things like that would be a great project to try to, tackle, get started on, identify some of those.
And over about the last 6 months to a year, we've kind of reinstated what's called the Vanished Marker, Vanished Places initiative. Mary, where's Mary? Mary back there has kind of helped spearhead that, and we actually reviewed a couple ideas for signage or markers, perhaps even in cement itself, to be able to mark some of the places around our community. There's a number of churches which have disappeared over time, businesses where we think we could seamlessly introduce markers to help commemorate historical places like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The old Carnegie Library, which I'm
yes.
familiar with.
I believe there used to be an opera house in town.
It did, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's part of the collaboration we're doing between us and the Bremer County Historical Society. Because they have a wealth, as you well know, of archival stuff for not only Bremer County, but a lot for Waverly. So.
Yeah, and thank you for incorporating the high school students in that bridge memorial. I know one of those students who worked on that. It was very important to them. It was good collaboration. Anything else? Thank you, commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, here's what we're going to do. We're at item 2, which is fiscal year 2024-25 budget hearing. Now, state code says there's going to have to be 2 hearings on the budget. At this moment, we don't have a budget. We have ideas about budgets. So our city administrator is going to make a presentation to the council. There is not normally public input, but I see that you're all here, and I want to honor the fact that you cared enough to come tonight, so that I will give some time for people to speak towards James's presentation. And we'll run through how we're going to do that after James is done. Agreeable to the council?
Sure. Sounds good.
Thank you. Mr. Broner?
Yes, sir. So this will be very brief. We've spent hours and hours. We've spent probably 14 hours in front of council on this. Staff and I have completed the reductions that we've talked about, the last meeting, the meeting prior, both Saturday meetings. We've finished the reductions according to the last meeting that we had, and we were finally able to hit a fund balance of just at $1 million. So that was kind of a goal. Unfortunately, it's 11% of our expenditures. Normally, we've tried to carry 25%. We kind of discussed why. And so we are well short of that still, but I don't know how much more we can really cut or reduce. I think we've hit about everything we can. We've tried to reallocate the one-off projects from concrete repairs, tuck pointing into a capital improvement fund. So we've done about everything we can with what you gave us. And in the end, we're at a levy rate of about 17.11. It's up from 14.5 cents from the prior year. The expenditures are about 400,000 less than expected expenditures this year. Revenue is about flat again, and so that's where our issue really lies. So I'm happy to have questions from council, anything that's included, not included. The one thing we did not include yet that we had prepared for tonight now is you looked at possibly raises being set to 0, which is completely up to you. I know Mr. Jones had asked about that, so we have those figures as well. So for each 1% reduction, it would be about $22,000. And we are currently at 3% as a city. Our contract, you'll see that we're about to approve the police, is 2.75 for 2 years. We still have the other contract, Public Works outstanding, with a maximum of 3 at that, since it is that or cost of living, whichever is lower. And so that is where we sit on city staff, and increases in raises would be about $22,000 per 1% drop. So if you go all the way to 0, it would be about a $53,000 drop. But 16.5 of that is the library itself, and you cannot dictate that decrease to the library. All you could do would be to ask for an additional 16.5 that's what it comes to, reduction in the budget, and they would then have to dictate where that would come from, because that is the authority they have. So that is about the last thing that we were trying to get to you. If it was just the directors that were taken to 0, which I've talked to staff, if it is, be about $16,000, give or take. And that's kind of the last few numbers that I know we were asked to present. So that's kind of where we sit as far as budget as a whole. I'm not sure how much more you want me to go into or how much detail you want to talk about, but we can go as far as you'd like.
Could you give us an explanation of the 17.11, how you broke that, how that breaks down?
Yes, ma'am. The driver in that is the debt that we were looking to do for the 3 trail bridges and the fueling station we talked about last meeting. Without that debt, we would have been at a 38 cent less, and so debt has driven it up 12 cents on the debt levy, a total of 15 cents overall from last year. So again, we were at 16.96866, if you want to know that. We're now at 17.11343. So it's a difference of 14.5 cents on the increase in the levy. Our big issue is not as much levy this year, as you're well aware, it was more general fund balance and so forth. That was the real drive. I know there's people out there that love to jump on the wagon this time of year. We have a lot of financial experts in the community this time of year as well. And I always appreciate the comments. My favorite is that the city is broke. Always enjoy that one. We have multiple funds throughout the city. All of them are flush. The general fund was the one that had problems this year. And that is where only certain parts of the budget can be paid for from. That is the issue we drove on, and that is what caused the reduction in cuts that we had. But the other funds that we have, special revenue, debt, TIF, et cetera, they are fine. So I guess that's what I have for you, unless there's questions or any other things you'd like to reiterate, things you'd like to walk through.
So I know that in the past, we tended to use our water and sewer funds to kind of prop up kind of the general fund, a lot of things were spent. I would say that was like 5 years ago, and we kind of reallocated that. We decided that that wasn't an appropriate use of our sewer and water funds. How much of that was driven by state auditor? Was this something that kind of Rob Sands was kind of, with his accounting and the GASB rules, kind of making sure that the funds were being used appropriately?
No, we have always had part of certain salaries paid for, whether it's water, sewer, solid waste.
Right.
The issue we had a number of years ago was that nobody really knew how those percentages had been allocated. They've been there for decades. And we really didn't have a good mechanism to determine how they should be done. So in working with Val, we went back through and looked at, if you have a position that covers something for the entire city, whether it's myself or HR or whoever it would be, we base that allocation on a percentage of expenditures from the audit. So you have actual audited figures, we break out the percentages, and that's where those salaries go. So it does adjust every year as the audit goes forward. So at least we have something we can point to as what justifies those changes. Because prior to that, we didn't. It was just, it's always been this way. And then the staff that work in that, we primarily went and asked them what percentage of your time is spent in water, in sewer, or solid waste, or general fund. And the majority of them were 20%, 20%, 60% general fund, and that's how we set it. And that's where we are today, continuing forward with those percentages broken out. So it was not an audit issue. There are cities that will try to push a lot of things into those funds. I've talked to League of Cities, I've talked to Allers and Cooney Law Firm, and they call that basically, it's a gimmick to push your budget and things of that nature. In fact, Allers went so far to say that it may violate Iowa code to do so, because it's not the intent of the code itself. You're only to utilize the water fund or sewer fund or solid waste for items that actually exist within that fund or utilized for that fund, not just to put it in there because you think you can.
But this is separate from, say, a franchise fee, which would go into the general fund.
Franchise fee is driven on utilities.
Right.
So whether it be Mid-American or our own Waverly Utilities, who already pays us a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, they already pay that for us, which is equivalent to some percentage of franchise fee.
Right.
If the city wanted to go through and do a franchise fee, which we talked about last meeting, Mid-American, places like that, they will merely pass that amount on to the customer, and so it really isn't,
It's a tax on the consumer.
in a sense, you could call it, I
Right.
guess. They call it a fee, it translates into almost an additional tax.
Right.
Which is why it's really not something to really.
Well, and it's a very regressive tax, too.
It can be,
So-
but there are hundreds of cities that do it. It's just
Right.
not something we have done, and I really don't want to do that going forward. But if
Well-
council chooses, we certainly will.
And that's certainly a tax that, or a franchise fee, that once it's in place, it's hard to get rid of it.
Very much so. And it's capped at 5%, but it's substantial when you start looking at the revenues and impacts for the different utilities at hand. And for us, the main one would be Mid-American for gas and electric. Because we do have a franchise fee on cable, which is both Waverly Utilities and,
Comcast.
thank you, Mediacom.
Mediacom.
That's who we have for now. And so, but we do not have that for electric or gas.
And if we decided to do that, what type of fee would that be for each customer, or do we even know?
We'd have to look at the contract, you'd have to negotiate that out with Mid-American, again, the primary we don't have, and it would be hard to say how much that would generate.
But that affects everyone with the Mid-American account, nonprofit versus
Everybody.
residential business, et cetera.
Everybody.
Okay.
So the maximum is 5%, but you would have to determine what percent you would want. And with that, you can't have local option sales tax with that particular portion. So 1% is a wash. It'd have to be 2% to have any gain. And so that's where your franchise fees that start at 1% don't really do anything for you. It'd be 2 to 5% you would set it at. You generate that revenue straight into the general fund or into the city funds. It is not sent to the county, which then redistributes to the state like local option sales tax is. That's a different 1%.
And that's 1% or 2% of their monthly bill?
Of their revenue that they generate, I believe. Again, I'm not that familiar with franchise
Okay.
fees.
It's the general revenue of Mid-American.
That's my understanding,
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
and is the legislature looking at changing that?
That's the one thing they haven't touched yet. So I assume Sunday that could happen because they're focused on local option sales tax this session, and it sounds like TIF may be coming next. because local option sales tax has already been introduced, Senate File 550, I believe, to remove that, give it back, whatever they're gonna do with it, so.
Can you clarify what you meant when you said that you can't have, if you do, with the local option sales tax, how does it interact? You said like, if it's 1%, you lose that or something?
So you can't have a franchise fee and local option sales tax on the same amount of revenue, so you can't have both on that money
So
from
that's
Mid-America.
just on, okay, just on
Yes,
the Mid-America.
just on
okay.
that portion of it,
So
you'd have to pick
we're-
one or the
We're
other.
already getting the local option sales tax.
We are.
Okay.
So you'd have to look at what that's costing you, what the franchise fee would generate, and determine if you want to go that route. But again, it's not something I want to do. It's, as you said, it's more of another tax, which I really don't want to do. But that is completely up to you as council.
What is it that you need from us tonight?
Basically to know if there's any more changes you want to do, any changes of what we've already done, the reductions we've put in place. Val has a very thorough memo, so House File 718 has stated that we have to have our entire budget basically done and finished and sent to the auditor, county auditor, by March 15th. League of Cities and Department of Management is wanting us to have it sent March 5th. So March 4th, she will set the public hearing for March 25th. The next day, we have to send this off to the state auditors. So they have time to get it done by the 15th, get it mailed out to everybody by the 20th, and so forth. So in order to meet those deadlines, we're wanting to lock down what you'd like to take forward to hearing, which can always go down, it can't go up.
Right.
But that would be the first hearing on the 25th, and the second hearing, to make sure we really want to approve the budget, would be April 7th or 15th. I'm not sure for 15th. Thank you, Val. So tonight is really locking down what goes to hearing.
I wanted to just run through some vocabulary because we have some younger voters here. We've mentioned a Mr. Sands. He's the state auditor.
Correct.
And he is just about the last person you want to be in trouble with. We've talked about having funds. There are 6 major funds. And you may say, well, there's a lot of money in this fund. Why don't you just move it? Like taking some of your grocery money to put on entertainment. Changing money from one fund to another is exactly what gets you in trouble with Mr. Sands. That's incredibly naughty. We're talking about a franchise tax, which would be like to tax Mediacom, and a lot of people would say, yeah, tax Mediacom, that sounds great. But they will only pass that tax on to the consumer. So to say we're going to franchise tax really means we're taxing our own citizens. Just wanted to clarify the vocabulary. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Council, you have more questions?
Well, I know there's probably some people here that want to say a few words, but
I think so.
as we've gone the last couple of weeks, there are a few things that we've talked about in the budget hearings that I have had some real difficulty with, and particularly the swimming pool. I have real concern about closing the swimming pool this summer. There is not a whole lot for kids to do anyway, and closing the swimming pool would probably be the last thing that I want to have done. I can understand perhaps foregoing doing the painting in the fall at the end of the season because the swimming pool hopefully will not be around that much longer, and can't see putting any more money into, or as little money as possible into repairing the physical structure. But if it's at all possible to keep the pool functioning, even maybe on a reduced use basis, and I don't know how that would play with trying to staff it, but, maybe shorter hours or maybe only several days a week or something like that. But I think closing the pool for the entire summer is not very appetizing to me. But I don't know where the numbers come out on this, and I'm really, I don't want to dig into the reserves either.
Which it will do.
Yeah.
It'll take 100,000 out of that.
It will,
10% of that
yeah.
reserve will go away. That's the
Yeah.
amount, 150 with the paint, which we would not do. And so I had Garrett go out and get some more photos of what the pool is looking like currently. Each year, it's gotten progressively worse. We tend to caulk and patch and try and keep this thing together. I don't know if Garrett be wanting to possibly display these. I think people should kind of see what we're getting into.
Well, we've seen the pictures, and the
Not all
thing,
of them.
well, the thing is that you're not going to be repairing the pool here in the spring. If you're going to be repairing, there might be some minor repairs.
Some of it we have to repair now because there's parts that are missing on the floor that have to come up now in the spring, the winter. We have to re-caulk a lot of this, and we have to try and find a way to fill the gaps where the water is leaking and things of that nature. We have rust issues, we have pipes that are crumbling.
Yeah, I know.
It is not a simple, it's a tub and we caulk it and it's full. there's some significant problems that I think most people don't see. And so we wanted to at least show you and public why this was possibly brought up as a possible reduction, because.
Well, and I know he's been
It's
putting off the
significant.
maintenance for years and years.
Well,
I mean, it's basically gotten to the point where if we're gonna reopen again, we're gonna have to put some serious money in just so it's not leaking water, like a sieve.
Just to open it this summer. I guess that's the point. If we could get by one more summer and then, not do the painting, not do the caulking, not do that kind of stuff in the fall, like we had in the budget. We had $50,000 set aside to paint the pool in the fall after the season
Right.
was over. But I hear what you're saying, Brian, is that if we're going to be spending $30,000 or $40,000 in the spring just to be able to open the pool up, certainly that is not something that is, that's something that may not be cost-effective to do in a pool that is not really going to be very useful.
Not gonna be around for very much longer.
Yeah.
And the money we are gonna spend on it is not gonna have a huge impact.
And it doesn't generate revenue in, it costs to
Yeah, right.
staff it and to maintain
Right,
it.
right, but it's not really a question of it generating revenue as much as it is as an amenity for the city. But if the thing is falling apart to the point where it's not worth fixing to be able to open it in this spring,
Well-
then I think, we would have to close it.
One thing I think that has been mentioned a lot is it's leaking a lot of water. But the water that is leaking isn't the problem, it's all the chemicals that are leaking
Right,
out. We're putting a lot of chlorine and acid into the ground, and then, of course, new water has to be retreated, which is why it's so expensive when that water's leaking. I'm a little concerned about what's under the pool if we're creating a Superfund site because of all the chlorine we're putting into the soil.
Yeah, that's a very valid concern. We have no idea where those million gallons are going.
No, we don't.
I mean,
About 1.7 is what we've calculated, million gallons. And you're right, it is treated water that's leaving, and it's have to be retreated when it comes back in. The amount itself is not massive. Our water system in general leaks an ungodly amount of water because of pipes that are cracked or downspouts that go into it. I mean, there's a lot of that happening, but it's not treated water. And so it's certainly not the end of the world. We can open the pool. I look at it as it was an option. If you as a council decide to do that, that's fine with us. It was just something we brought to your attention to try and save $150,000 this year to help cut into what we're looking at, because that's equivalent of a couple bodies. And our whole goal is to not go further than we already have.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're ready, Garrett. You have those ready? So if you look at some of the photos, we looked at a few other areas we hadn't taken photos of before, locker rooms and such, and it's a little more than we were anticipating too, once we started getting into there.
And James, when you total up the expenses for the pool, do they include all the gallons of water and the extra chemicals?
The chemicals they would, but the water, it's, like I
just-
said, water is not real expensive,
Yeah.
it's just the treatment itself. So some of this, like Garrett is showing you here, this is all caulk and
So
remnants
this is
trying
like
to
at
patch
the
this.
base of the pool, or where is that?
So
in
this
the-
is on the wall of the pool. It's, this is in the deep end, and you can see as I go up here above it, this is all starting to fall apart as well. This was just a complete hole in there that I filled with, I don't know exactly what it's called, some concrete stuff that,
Some epoxy to seal it
yeah,
up.
that Justin uses, so that's what went in there. This one here is actually on the gutter, and what that is this comes into the pool. Before the pool is open, I'm washing the gutters out with all the leaves and all that stuff, so there's just water running in there continuously. Water leaks from the gutter into the pool there. It does it in a couple other places as well, not as bad, but this is just water coming out. I have a concern that what I can't see inside. And for as much water as we are losing, it's very possible that it's going out to the outside of those gutters as well.
And you can hit the highlights for
You've
Garrett,
seen
I
the
think you get the
paint.
gist of it.
You've seen the paint before. Excuse me.
I mean, the paint is gone, basically.
I don't know how well you can see that up there on those, but that's a crack in the filter room wall. It goes all the way through to the women's locker room. it's the same crack, same wall there. I don't want to necessarily show everything here, but
Sure.
these are some pipes that need replaced. We were in the middle of replacing this one here. I obviously have that on hold right now until we figure out what we're going to do aesthetically. That's an accident waiting to happen, and so that's why it's getting replaced for this year, obviously, if we want it.
And does our staff do that sort of repair, or do you call in someone?
We're lucky enough that Shane can take care of
Yeah.
that. So, Shane would be working on that. This one here is just where the split is. This one goes out to the main pool. This goes to the baby pool. You can see that's not far behind. It should be replaced as well. And again, I think as, I guess I don't remember if Rod mentioned or Brian mentioned, these things should have probably been done 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but we've been sitting here going, 2 more years and we'll have a pool, 2 more years and we'll have a pool. And so it didn't make sense to put that kind of money into changing these things, at that time. But now we're to the point where these things have to get done. Let's see what else I have here. You've seen some of these before. I mean, this is a spot on the pool floor that I've fixed with some self-leveling concrete. It's by no means perfect. You can see this is coming up over here as well. This is brand new. This here is brand new that I just noticed with this last round of pictures. So that's something that I'd have to take care of here in the spring. I mean, something like that isn't going to cost me anything to fix. But it's just, it keeps happening all over the pool floor. Yeah, really, that's what I've got for pictures. James mentioned, I mean, we're losing close to 1.7 million gallons of water for the season. That doesn't include the amount of water that it's taking to fill the pool in the first place and how much is leaking out before I start keeping the log of that. Because the log that I have goes from Memorial Day weekend until closing. And I don't remember the number that it was, but it was very, very large, close to 1 million gallons or over 1 million gallons to actually get the pool ready, fill it, and then another 1.7 through the season. So that's where we are water-wise.
I mean, we have valves that are held open by wires because if they go shut, it won't operate correctly. We have floats that don't work, that we have to have chains on to hold them in place, open constantly. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about and looked at that's why we brought it to you, was so that you could make the discussion and decision on this. Can we get it functioning? We can. Will it stay open all season? We don't know. I mean, the pumps have to fire, which doesn't always happen. The float system you're showing you there doesn't work. So it creates suction problems, and it's just where we are. So that's why we brought it to you. It's certainly your decision. We'll do whatever you want to do. We just want to at least let you see kind of what we're dealing with.
And we do have on the agenda coming up consultants, so we get solid numbers. We're not guessing, but if the council will indulge me, for the sake of the audience, I'd like to talk used cars again. If you'd imagine you have a car with 200,000 miles on it, it's just about to die, so you know you're going to be looking to buy a new car. The car you own is worth about $2,000, but it stops running. So you go to the mechanic and he says, or she says, for $5,000 I can get your old car running. So would you rather take your old car, your 60-year-old swimming pool car, and put in all kinds of money to get it running for a little bit longer? Would you rather put all of that money towards a new car or a new pool? If we talk about $150,000 to get the pool open, that's 2 employees. That's 2 people who lose their jobs. Am I exaggerating?
It's right in there. At least one, maybe two.
Okay, just for perspective. Council, you have a budget in front of you. You have any more questions or comments?
I just have a question for Garrett about pool attendance. So you showed me some numbers that it looked like your peak attendance for the pool is typically June, July, and then there's a drop off, as I recall, but correct me if I'm wrong. And
No, you're correct.
And part of it is, I know you start to lose staffing in August. And so is it practical or feasible to have the pool open for a more abbreviated season? Or do you feel like, given these issues, it's not safe or practical?
Well, I mean, there's been a few options that we've talked about, and, I've kind of heard, maybe not discussed really up here, but just a little, touch on it a little bit. And I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Rod, but I think you had mentioned like maybe scaled back hours or, something along those lines. And I had definitely thought about something like that. I fear that we're not going to get the staff to staff that because, our kids want to be there, as much as possible. They're not going to want to come in and do a 1 to 5 or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the other thing to think about is even if we reduced hours and reduced staff time, we still have to circulate that pool the entire time. And the entire time, we're losing water and we're adding chemical. James said, yeah, could we get the pool going and could we be open? Yes, we can do it. I want to open it. I don't know if that is the best decision, given everything that I have picture-wise, everything that I've seen. Even right now, I'm not showing everything that's wrong with the pool.
Right.
And for good reason. I'm not showing everything that's wrong with the pool.
I've been in the room with the tank, and it's a scary place,
Yes.
so.
Well, the heaters have been problematic for years. I don't know if they still are.
Well, the heaters are only problematic to the aqua size class. Everything else, and for everyone else, they're okay. And I apologize to the aqua size class, but
Just to clarify.
Yes.
If we did not paint though, we talk about this deficit of 150, it'd really be a deficit of 100.
Correct.
If we don't do the painting. Correct.
that is correct.
That puts it a
Yep,
50% difference in the number.
correct.
That's
Yes.
without anything unexpected.
That's without
Breaking.
anything unexpected.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So James, when we had our last budget meeting, we sort of ran the list of things that were possible. Some of the ideas we were not crazy about, such as the pool. Did you end up in the budget you and Val came up with implementing each of those, or were there certain things that we thought might have to be cut that turned out didn't need to be cut? And I know there's been some changes in the prospective health insurance costs for
Our
staff
health
too.
insurance that was supposed to come in at 7%, it's now at 11.25%. Separate
Increase.
fund, didn't enjoy that. It's an increase more than we anticipated, so again, separate fund. That's what affected the levy almost as much as some of the debt did, so, but again, different fund. So at the end of the last meeting, you went around the dais, everybody indicated what you wouldn't want to do. Everyone talked about the pool needed to be included in the reductions, so we did it. Franchise fees, nobody really favored that, so we didn't do it. So we did walk through that whole situation, so all the reductions that we had on the table, we moved forward with them.
Okay.
That's what got you
That
to
was
the
my
$1 million
question.
fund balance, that's what gets you where we sit, the 1711 fund levy. That's where we are today.
Okay.
So we're all in at this point, but it is more or less done. We have to factor it into the state forms to get it ready for hearing, but we've put in everything we can put in to get the numbers that you see in front of you. So if you want to take some of those things out, that's fine. It's just a fund balance issue.
And is
That I
there a
said
new
11%.
memo, like a new summary somewhere?
Val may have one. I've
Okay.
not
I
created
didn't
one.
know
We've
if-
been trying to just work as we could without going back.
I didn't know if
regurgitating
there was
it.
something else in the packet.
I'd like to hear from the public.
Yeah.
Mr.
Any other council people want to talk?
can I switch gears for just a moment? And just,
How many gears are you gonna switch?
it's within the budget.
Okay.
I have some concern about outsourcing. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. The biggest reason I'm concerned is the fact that I've seen the state do this on several things and outsourcing, like Medicaid, privatizing things, and it ends up costing the state more with decreased outcomes. And so it's just something that if we, if this goes forward, that really to keep an eye on what happens over the next year or two, just so we're not costing the city more.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that got
I
said.
believe we do better diligence than the state does. No offense to the state, I don't think they're here, but fine. Some of the things they do, I sit and scratch my head, and it does turn out to be very bad for them. The thing is, we knew going in it was bad for them. They just went ahead anyway. We don't do that. We vet this thoroughly, we have our numbers ran, we know what we're gonna cost. We budget high just to make sure we're within what we think it's gonna be, and we try to hit that point. Because I agree with you completely, the last thing we wanna do is cost more than where we were before. And I'm gonna assure you that's not gonna be the case.
Okay, as I mentioned before, there will in fact be 2 more hearings on this budget after today. And there is no place on the agenda to call for public remarks on this tonight, but I see that you're here, and I want to honor the fact that you came out. So I'm going to take the mayor's privilege and give some time, but we'll follow the rules under G, public comments that are not on the agenda. These are the rules. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member. I will ask Councilperson Kangas to take care of timing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this budget? Oh, yeah, thank you. If someone has already said everything you wanted to say, it's okay to not repeat it. Anyone want to speak to the budget? Ms. Diana Blake.
With regards to
You need to come to the microphone, please, for the people at home.
All right. I am Diana Blake, the current president of the Waverly Public Library Board of Trustees. Some might say board member for life. Actually, the budget situation we find ourselves in right now may be shortening my life and may be probably yours too. I wrote some comments down and I think I'll read them so that I can stay coherent at my age. I have to be careful. Reflecting on my many years on the board, this may be the most challenging. The library has always enjoyed support from the Waverly community and the city council. This situation is a bit of a perfect storm for us as we finish our renewal project, get the bookmobile into the community, and continue to grow our service to an expanding community demand. As the law requires, the city council sets the bottom line of the library budget, and the trustees set the line items. At our Tuesday meeting last, we designed a budget that meets the council and city administrator request for a $150,000 reduction in our initial plan. As we set the line items, there may be a reduction in staff, materials, programming, and service. The community and this council has strongly supported the library in the Make Room for Renewal project. The library will continue to serve the community in the best ways possible as we work through budget cuts, your cuts and ours. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Blake. Is there anyone else who would like to speak towards this budget? Come on up.
I'm Deanna McHugh, and I'm the president of the Library Foundation, and so I'd like to add to what Diana Blake has shared regarding the library. I shared some of these thoughts with you in an email, and I just wanted to summarize a few of those points. I'm asking you to further consider the size of the library's $150,000 reduction, which amounts to over 12% of the original budget proposal we brought to you. As with most departments, personnel are the majority of our costs, so this will force elimination of staff hours and translate into reduced hours of service and fewer programs and resources for the community. The library represents less than 6% of the city's overall budget, but over 12% of the total for the departments supported by the general fund, where your biggest pressures lie, and as shared by Administrator Bronner. I understand the lower rollbacks mean less property tax revenue, and the budget rose by over $1 million as originally presented. That, combined with the auditing changes with the reserve balance, led to the 1.8 million target that was originally shared by James Bronner. The library's $150,000 decrease is roughly 8% of that total. As Diana Blake shared, our board has approved a plan to reduce by that amount, and I acknowledge that that decrease represents less than our percentage of the taxable department expenditures, and certainly less than the departments that are facing large cuts or elimination. But it is also a much deeper cut than some departments. We have been very well funded over the years. I thank you all for that, and for the support you gave to the renewal project. The result is a wonderful library which contributes a lot to the Waverly community quality of life, fueled by the excellent staff and the creative and diverse programs they design and deliver. This will eliminate a portion of that staff, reduce hours in programs, as Diana shared, right on the cusp of us being able to deliver more through the bookmobile, which was totally funded by private donations to the foundation, and the greater room for renewal we'll have in the expanded facility. All of these increases, library included, or decreases, I should say, that you are considering may well be the best we can do with a difficult situation. But I ask you to consider any potential trade-offs, including possible offsets with increased revenues like franchise fees, traffic cameras, etc., that could mitigate the near-term impact and allow us time to thoughtfully plan for what may well be greater long-term pressure. I also point out that during the busy summer recreation season, reduced library services and the pool closure will combine to save $300,000, but will ask our youth to shoulder almost 17% of that $1.8 million decrease. Lastly, I know any budget discussion must naturally focus on quantity, but I also want to emphasize the qualities that are lost when we reduce the number of people who live, work, and serve the public here in Waverly, day after day and face to face. For the library, this reduction may mean fewer people driving the bookmobile, directing senior programs, discussing issues with teens, delivering classes, describing that next great book, or delighting our youth with creative programs. In other areas, it means fewer welcoming faces at the pool, fewer knowledgeable faces who serve Waverly in legal, engineering, and vegetation management. Yes, these budget cuts will help us reduce the quantity of money we spend, but they have the potential to stretch the quality of our community's fabric thin, and that thin fabric can easily fray. So in preparation for the difficult decisions you must make, I ask that you consider the impact of these cuts, not just on the bottom line, but on the connections that make Waverly a community I've lived in my entire life. We understand at the library that as part of the community, we have a responsibility to help address the challenge. So please know that regardless of your decisions, the library will support the plan and continue serving as a community center and community partner. Again, I thank you for your generous past support and for your thoughtful consideration to the future budget cycle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this budget? Please come forward.
Is that real quick? Good evening. My name is Ann Duncan, and I'm here to speak to you specifically about the possible closure of the outside pool. I'm here as a representative for the Waverly Area Swim Club, as well as the aquatics programs at the Wellness Center, both of which I work for, coach for, and teach. First, I want to just make sure you know about these things, because in conversations I've been watching at the council, neither of these programs have come up as users for the pool. The pool is much more than a place to drop your kids off in the summer. I'm going to cut a lot of what I wanted to say out, because I want to make sure that these young people that are choosing to engage in this process have prepared things to say. So I'm going to email this to you. But I want to make sure, I just want to cover a little bit about how we're organized. To have a really successful program like we do here in Waverly, we actually partner with 6 other communities, and we make up what's called the Big Six Swim Club. We are practicing, this last team we practiced for a season, we practiced with 81 swimmers in that pool for up to 18 hours a week, 5 days a week. Being able to practice 5 days a week helps our swimmers to improve exponentially during a very short season. We operate by pooling those resources. We rotate swim meets, so every year we rotate at least 2 meets to our pool. This year we also had our swim-off meet that brought 246 swimmers here. 203 of those swimmers were from outside of our communities. That was the families of 203 swimmers that were captivated at an athletic event, as I'm sure you have been, for over 6 hours, sneaking away to get coffees, visit the brewery, get lunch and food afterwards, and also visiting our community. If the pool was to not open this year, our growing program, this last year we had our first winter program. Our growing program would have to make some really, really hard choices about whether we would continue. A program that has been in this community, I'm sure a lot of you either participated, either yourself, your grandkids, or your children have some sort of connection to this program. If we could find an inside place to practice, our swimmers would be at a disadvantage because our indoor pools are shorter than pools. They're yard pools as opposed to a meter pool. The Waverly pool is the only area, or the only outdoor pool in our area, where swimmers are able to practice a 50-meter swim, which is what they are doing for state and regional competitions. By swimming east to west, we get that 50-meter swim in. We are also one of the only sites, if we had to move to that indoor facility, then we would also have to cap off our program. Our winter program is capped at 36 kids. I will remind you, we had 81 this last summer. Previous years, we've had up to 100 swimmers. I also want to speak a little bit to the W programming that happens at the outside pool. The W does utilize that for 9 athletic classes every week. Average daily attendance in those classes is 18 participants. A majority of these participants are retirees, senior citizens, and for some of these participants, this is one of their few social engagements out in the community, which is not only encouraging and uplifting their physical health, but as well as their mental and social health. There's a couple things if you're going to consider closing, I want to make sure that you know up front. If you're thinking that not opening the pool, or excuse me, the W would be a good alternative for recreational swimming next summer, 2025, because let's be real, if we close it for 24, it's probably not going to open for 25 or until future plans are made. 2025, the W pool is going to be closed for up to a month because of deferred maintenance that they've had to deal with, and it has to be closed and drained. So that's not going to be an option. The pools in our area that we can get to easily, basically the Shell Rock pool is our only option. It's much smaller, has a much more limited capacity. And I'm sure you are also aware that being able to pay to get into the W or the Prairie Link swimming pool is just not financially feasible for a certain portion of our population. A certain portion of our population that are there because that's where they have to go. I would also like to know how our community is supposed to approach this next summer in the time period before the library's operations are up and open, before the point where the pool is not open. Specifically speaking to financials, because I know that's what it's coming down to. I have some concerns about misinformation that's been out into the community. I do not believe this is being done intentionally, but it brings me concerns. I was told this last week that Mary Anderson had made a comment to you at a chamber meeting about 4 inches of water coming out of the pool a day. I've heard Garrett say 2 to 3 inches. I'm at that pool 5 days a week, often one of the first people at the pool, and that's not necessarily what I'm observing. I also, just today, got the records from Garrett as far as our water use, looking at some of our water use correlations to hot days, lots of splashing, lots of evaporation. A certain part of that is reality. In that $150,000 budget, $100,000 of it is staffing. $20,000 of it was utilities, which I'm guessing includes the water and the electric. So it's not a huge, the water is not a huge budget issue, you've mentioned that. But that $100,000, if we're planning on closing down the pool as a temporary solution, that's not a permanent fix to that 25, 26, 27 budget.
Thank you so much. Your time's expired.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this budget? Mike Cherry.
We'll let the pool people go first.
Thank you.
I am part of the Waverly Swim Team Club. I want you to take a
Can
moment.
you say your name, please?
Chloe.
Can you speak into the mic?
I want you to take a moment and think when you were my age, 11, 12, 13. What were you doing in the summertime? I bet most of you were riding your bikes, carefree around town, headed to the pool to hang out with your friends. If you decide to close the pool, I think about me, how this would change my summer as a kid and a very competitive swimmer who loves the water. Why should us kids be punished for an adult decision out of our control? I think that it is a time to stand up for the pool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this budget?
My name is Macklin Honeymiller. I have been an athlete with Waverly Area Swim Club for 3 years, and I wanted to speak out in regards of the possibility of shutting down our city pool. Being a part of our local swim club has provided so many opportunities of growth for myself as well as my teammates. I used to compete in gymnastics, but it wasn't until I joined a competitive swim team that I really found true confidence in myself. School isn't easy for kids my age. Academics are hard, teen issues are hard, but swim is an outlet for us. It provides different options in town for kids to stay active, and it provides many moments of socializing with others, with peers our age, as well as older and younger members of both our community and others. Furthermore, it is the only sport in town that allows my siblings and I to all be a part of the same team, which isn't just a win for me, but my parents as well. In swim club, I have made lifelong friends that I likely otherwise wouldn't have. Please consider keeping the pool open, not just for swim club, but also for the kids in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sydney Jacobson, and I'm 11 years old and in the 6th grade from the Waverly Area Swim Club. I've been a part of this team since I was 7. The pool closing this year would be devastating for the Waverly Area Swim Club, not just for practice, but for hosting meets. It's not as fun when the meet isn't on your home turf. It's also great when we can practice in a 50-meter long pool for those who make it to state. This team made me realize my passion for swimming, and I know many other people who love swimming and probably never would have thought to swim without this team. In the summers, I spend half of my summer here, and to not have a hometown pool would make me very sad. I also don't know where we would end up in the Big Six, and over the years, I have made many friends on all different teams of the Big Six Swim Club. I ask that you take the necessary steps to keep our pool open this summer. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
I am Hannah Meyer. I swim with the Big Six Swim Club. Swimming is a sport that has my heart. I want to continue being able to swim for my community and having a pool close to me to play with. Me and my friends. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Honeymiller, and I'm actually going to flip this over so you guys can see some of the pictures along with what we're talking about.
And so today I'm actually going to read from one of our assistant coaches. Her name is Morgan Jacobs. She is currently, I'll just read her note to you guys, what it says. To the City of Waverly Council, my name is Morgan Jacobs, and I am one of the current assistant coaches for the Waverly Area Swim Club, also known as WASC. I would like to first of all apologize for my lack of presence for this meeting. I am currently studying at Iowa Central Community College in Fort Dodge, Iowa. To explain the importance of this resource, the pool, I'd like to share my story with WASC. I started with WASC during the 2012 season and continued to swim throughout my senior year in 2022. With the help of different amazing coaches I've had at WASC over the years, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to sign on to the swim team here at Iowa Central. Having this opportunity has made it so I was able to compete on the National Junior College Athletic Association level, become a national qualifier and medalist this last March. I've had the opportunity to compete nationally, or I have the opportunity to compete nationally again here in 2 weeks, and have the opportunity to sign at multiple different colleges to continue swimming after I graduate this May with my associate's degree. Due to swimming being such an important piece in my life, I personally have found ways to pay my bills with my current schooling. My success with WASC is one of many stories, and I genuinely wouldn't have been able to get to where I am today without the help of WASC. When I took the job to be the assistant coach for WASC, I did it because I love the program and would love to see young, aspiring athletes get the same opportunities I did. Please keep this resource available to the public for these young athletes. They deserve the chance to continue to grow and learn in a sport that they love so much. I would really hate to see many of these athletes lose the chance to compete because this type of resource was not readily available in our area. For example, my siblings and I were raised in Clarksville and have only been able to enter the sport because of WASC. It is a resource that is very unique to Waverly, and I feel it would hurt the city of Waverly more than help if you took the pool away. I understand I am one of few that can tell a story like this coming from parents, but WASC has genuinely done so much for so many aspiring young athletes. I deeply appreciate you all hearing my story since I am not able to share it in person. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of WASC. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this budget? Mr. Cherry.
So we've cycled through the library and the pool, and now we get to the engineering division. So I do have four, you're going to have to do formulas you're going to have to share between two of you. So I will be as quick as I can be on this. You got the timer going, I imagine?
Timer is starting now.
Starting now, okay. So, those that know me know you're going to get a little bit of historical background on this. And so, over 40 of the last 50 years, Waverly has had a licensed civil engineer on staff in-house. The first one that I can find is Fred Salisbury, who was in the early 70s. And then we went for a period of about 10 years from the late 70s to late 80s without in-house city engineer. Prior to me, it was Larry Buchholz, Tom Goff, and then I've been your city engineer since 1997. What are my credentials and institutional knowledge? For nearly 27 years, I've been employed with the city of Waverly, Iowa. As your city engineer. For 24 plus years, I was the director of public works for the 11 divisions that it supports. Within that position, I developed comprehensive multi-year budgets and user fee analysis for water, sewer, and solid waste rates. I had 24 years of capital improvement programming, which involved planning and budgeting. 19 of those years, I worked closely with Finance Director Jack Bachhuber, City Administrators Dick Crane and Phil Jones on the CIP plans, and was actively involved in conference calls with Waverly's bond agent and the Moody's rating service. I've received recognition and praise regarding the accuracy and completeness of project records from the city's hired auditor, FEMA staff, Iowa Department of Homeland Security, and numerous consultants. I also served as your incident commander during the 100-year flood in '99 and the 500-year flood in 2008. Also, started out my career from '97 and 2005 The Public Works also oversaw the Waverly Building Inspection and Zoning Divisions. So, 27 years of in-house licensed engineering services. I can't speak for the prior engineers that the city employed, but for my 27 years, what was the role and responsibility of the city engineer? So I was the designated person responsible charge for hundreds of capital projects, provided grant writing and administration services, was directly involved in securing $15 to $20 million in grants for streets, trails, airport, and flood mitigation projects. Served as the designated person responsible charge and the project engineer for design, construction, observation, and administration services. Now, a lot of this is definitions and terminology. So the Iowa DOT has definitions as to what the person responsible charge does, what is expected of that person. Same thing with the project engineer that defines what those roles and responsibilities are. So, continuing on, you'll see that there's a little bit of a code at the bottom of the page that explains what that code is. D is design, I is inspection, A is administration. So, going down through, over the 27 years, a laundry list of capital projects that the engineering office was involved in. We developed the contract administration and consultant agreements, managed the RFQ process for consultant selection on capital projects, and you're going to see, hundreds of capital projects going down through here. And what I want you to see is that it covers everything in every division. We worked on the swimming pool renovations and rehab back in 97 and 98. We performed the inspection and administration services on that. So when you see D, I, and A, that's design, inspection, administration, that means we did it all. If you see I and A, a consultant did the design, the engineering office took over with inspection and administration. You will see golf course, cemetery, library, parking lot, city hall parking lot, fire station. The fire station construction, we provided the administration for that project to make sure that the council had the pay applications, the change orders, and that all the paperwork was being processed accordingly. So one of the things that you need to get out of this, those services were being provided in-house, literally 30 feet down the hallway, accessible to the council, to the administration at any given time. Those services being farmed out to a consultant, are you going to get that type of duplication of service? You can look at dividing it up. Someone else is going to have to take over putting agenda memos together. Are you going to have the information that you are receiving today in those agenda memos? Comprehensive expenditures and financial planning, as well as mapping out every step of the process from hiring. Sometimes, yes, we have to hire consultants. Every city does that. Even, with big engineering departments, they still hire out to consultants. So you're probably going to cut me off here.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Cherry.
So, once you take a look at that, there's a laundry list, covers every aspect of the city, every area of the city, and I am available for reviewing it further if you decide to hold off and have a further discussion regarding the engineering division. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this budget? This is Audra Cherry.
Yes, my name is Audra Cherry, and I am not going to speak about engineering.
Thank you.
Not my wheelhouse. As I'm sitting out here and listening to the way some of these cuts are going to impact our community, specifically the library and the swimming pool and the Waverly Area Swim Club, I am curious about the fact that more and more taxpayer money has been dedicated to our municipal golf course every year, and yet nobody is talking about decreasing their budget. And I'm just wondering if that is something that has even been a topic of conversation. And if it has not yet been considered, then I would implore you to consider maybe spreading some of the pain around and not focusing so much of it on the library and the swimming pool.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this budget? Council, where are you at?
Well, first I'd like to thank the young people that got up to speak. That takes a lot to get up in public and speak, so very, very good kudos to you for doing that. This is not an easy decision for us, and I'm sure it's hitting home to you guys, and you made that clear, so thank you for that. I guess where I look at it, I wish I didn't have to cut anything. I mean, this is just really not where I want to be at. But if it comes down to not having the pool open versus having an employee out there dealing with down trees, limbs, keeping the streets clean, patched, police officer on the beat, that's not a hard choice for me, actually, on those. It was kind of the same thing I said to James when they were looking at, we've got these vehicles that we need to replace. We need to look at them. And my comment to him was, I don't really want to have a nice shiny new vehicle with no body to put in it. Right. It doesn't do us any good. And so that's kind of been my look at this is, we're still cutting people, that we're still having to cut people, and that hurts. But I think we're cutting where we're able to, trying to do the least damage as far as the cuts go.
And I'm sure the audience understands it wasn't our decision to make the cuts. This is being inflicted upon us, and it's every town in Iowa, it's not just us. Every city council is meeting and having probably virtually identical conversations. Council, where are you at? Is this the budget you want to move forward to the hearings? I'll let this go by consensus, but if you want to
I
make
just
a
have
motion.
a question, just a procedural question.
Councilman Dranko.
At the hearings, when we have the budget hearing on what's the date for the hearing?
25th of March and 7th of April.
Okay. Will there be any opportunity to make any changes to the proposed budget at that time? Or are they going to have to be made prior to the hearings so that we have them in the budgets that go on? It seems to me kind of ridiculous to have a hearing if the budget's already set in stone.
You can go down, but you can't go up. You're setting your limits right now.
And when you say the limits, you mean how much we can tax, not how much we can spend?
All of it. You have, for certain areas of the budget, you have a limit what you can do per fund from an expenditure standpoint, revenue and so forth, and when the expenditures are set, that's the budget. So if you want to take something and put it back in, you have to take something else back out. That's the hearing.
Basically one-to-one swap out.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for reaching out over the last couple of weeks and for speaking tonight. I think, we talked at length about this at our second budget meeting. These are not easy decisions. We talked about how we didn't want to kick this down the road. We did not want it to become the Green Bridge of finance for Waverly. We take an oath to do what we think is best for the city as a whole. We try to be fiscally responsible, and I think we have done that over the years that I've been on council. I think, as the mayor said, we're in this perfect storm of reduced revenues, increasing costs, and we are every year, every month, every day we ask our city staff to be more and more lean and more efficient. And they don't typically come to our first budget meeting with a fluffy budget, I don't think. Each proposal seems legitimate and seems reasonable and seems necessary. And every year that I've been on council, the second round of budget discussions, cuts have been made, usually at our request, sometimes because department chairs realize that they can put something off, a purchase, a replacement, something. You know, I see my top priority as a council person is to maintain safety in the city. I do not want to cut law enforcement bodies. We are finally going to be fully staffed as a police department, is my understanding, and I don't want that to change. I don't want to cut essential equipment that the fire department needs, such as the radio system that they have requested. It makes me uneasy to hear the public pitting one city department against another. There are people to whom the golf course is important. There are portions of the golf course that's turning a profit. I don't want to save one type of recreation at the expense of another type of recreation, because it's all important. It all makes Waverly a great place to live. We have a pool that's falling apart. Even if we open the pool this year, I don't know that it's going to last another year, or should it, after this. I was not aware that the W is going to be doing maintenance. I don't know that that's going to matter with our city pool, because we'll be lucky if it lasts this season. And I've always had concerns about the safety of city staff working on that pool ever since I visited that tank room, which is archaic, to say the least. And so it's not an easy decision to be contemplating closing that pool. I mean, that's where I hung out as a kid when I was growing up, and trust me, the locker room looks exactly the same as it did and smells exactly the same as it did in 1973. And Kim Folkers taught me how to swim in that pool, and the water was ice cold. I don't think it was safe back then. So, you know, it's important to us to have things for youth to do. And it's not easy to think about closing that pool at all. It's not easy to be considering laying off staff. We have a very dedicated city staff. The cuts that have been proposed have nothing to do with people's quality as an employee, their dedication to the city, what they've done for the city. That's not what this is about. I think we charged James, Val, our department heads with what, if we have to make cuts, which we do, how can we make cuts with the least, and it's all painful, but how can it be the least painful and remove the least amount of essential services as possible? And that's difficult because everybody thinks their department is essential, and most of what we do is essential. Even if it's not essential, it's a service or a line of services, or however you want to put it, that is essential for making Waverly a great place to be. I had a very productive meeting with the Finance Committee of the library. I'm the liaison to the library. I'm a huge supporter of the library. And do I want to ask them to make cuts? No, but I also think that every department is getting hit with some sort of cut. They're either not getting equipment that they thought they needed, they are not going to have replacement staff that they thought they were going to get, such as a mechanic for Public Works. We are not going to be rehiring. You know, when Bill retires, we're not going to have a city attorney anymore. We're potentially closing out our engineering division, our vegetation management. All those people are important, and what they do is important, and it stinks to have to lay people off. If we don't make cuts, we're going to end up laying off more people because we have to come up with the money. We are not the federal government who can just print more money, right? We have to balance our budget. And I also think to be a fiscally responsive civil servant, we have to have a nest egg. We have to have a savings account. And even the savings account that we're going to create with these cuts is not what we wanted. And so I think, you know, I think that this is very difficult for all of us. I know it's been difficult for the city administrator. But I think, you know, we have to, I don't think we can just kick it down the road. I don't like the prospect of closing the pool, although I don't know how we keep it open after this year, honestly. Now we're going to get an opinion. That's on our agenda tonight, about getting an opinion. Can we remodel the pool? Can we use the the basic structure. I'd love to be there when they do the inspection. But can we use the bones of it and remodel it, or do we need to start over? And I hope, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope all of you are participants in that when it comes to designing a new pool, because we want input from the people who are going to use the pool. But I don't know where to come up with that money. If we don't close the pool, where do we come up with that other $100,000? I don't know. You know, if we don't ask the library to cut, and I have some disagreement with how the library has decided to make those cuts, but that's their thing. Our job, you know, as someone said before, is not to micromanage how the library board does their thing. But I think there are other ways that they can cut without losing services. And that's just my opinion. But I don't know where to come up with the money if we don't make the cuts. You know, I think we've talked about franchise fees. People are not, those aren't attractive because they do tend to hit people, you know, who are lower income, who are nonprofits, et cetera. And traffic cameras are a potential revenue source. We didn't discuss them as that initially. They are primarily a safety tool and a way to make our law enforcement more efficient and allow them to do other things. But they are a potential source of revenue, but they're not a guaranteed year-to-year-to-year source of income. And so I'm making a big, long, rambling speech just to say that this is very difficult, and am I comfortable with this budget? No. I just don't know what else to do, frankly. And so if there was a way to keep the pool open and somehow find $100,000 without eliminating bodies, I would go for that, but I don't know that that solution exists. And we, you know, we discussed that to some degree at our February 3rd meeting. But those are just my thoughts, and I do appreciate people coming and the people who've reached out over the last couple of weeks. But I don't know, I don't have another good solution. That's our dilemma. I guess that's why we ran for office. But this is truly the most difficult budget year we've had since I've been on council. And you know, Ms. Blake's been around these budget meetings forever, and it's the toughest one she remembers too. So I guess that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councilperson Rothy. Council, what would you like to do? Is this the budget you want to take to the public at the public hearing?
I don't have a better choice. I suppose I don't want to, but I don't have a better option. I think Ann said it pretty well, that there's no better solution out there. I mean, I just feel like we are still recovering from the pandemic. That took a big hit on our budget. And, you know, now we're down to you know, what's like 11%, where we'd rather be at 25%. And if we have another disaster, be it a flood, be it a pandemic, be it, you know, a depression, I mean, who knows what could happen. But we are really not in a very safe place for that, and I'd like to build those reserves up more. And, you know, I don't want to be closing the pool. I don't want to be cutting the library services. I don't want to, you know, do any of these things. But I think we have a responsibility to protect this community. And sometimes I mean, that's where I got on council, because we have to make the hard decisions. And it's not an easy decision. None of us are enjoying it. But the hard decision's a hard decision. This is the one we got to make.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. This isn't a budget that I in any way feel comfortable with. I wish we didn't have to do this, but I'm going to lay it out exactly the way I feel on this. You know, we may take some heat for this, I don't know, but the bottom line is that our hands have been tied behind our backs by the state legislature. We're in this situation because of restrictions that the state legislature has put on our ability to pay for things like a swimming pool and a library and all of those kinds of things that we do as a city. If the state legislature decides that they're going to take away our ability to make decisions for the people who elect us, then I think we need to have a different state legislature. I'm really upset that there's nothing we can do. We're sitting here trying to fit a square peg into a round hole because that's what the state legislature has told us to do. And I'm just going to lay it out there, and There are probably some people who are going to be concerned that this is a political situation, and it really is. We would not be in this situation if the restrictions that the legislature has imposed on us over the last few years had not been put on us. So I'm sorry that we have to make these decisions. These are not decisions that I'm in any way comfortable with, but we really have no choice.
Council, are you ready to move on? Is this the budget you want to take to hearings?
This is the budget I'm ready to take the hearings.
Thank you.
Want is a strong word.
It is. Is this the budget you're prepared to take to the hearings?
Prepared, yes.
All right, thank you. Then that will conclude item number 2. It is not rude to leave if you don't care about Nagel signs. Let's take a 45-second recess.
Here's a glass of coffee.
James, what are those dates? March 25th.
March 25th will be the first hearing. That Monday.
The first Monday.
Yes, that'll be the final hearing.
I'm planning to not be here for either one of them.
I am too.
No, literally, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No, I don't think so. I'm thinking of leaving the country. I'm not kidding. I think I'm actually leaving the country those 2 days, so.
You can wait till April 9th.
Council, let's return to item 3. This is Resolution 24-25, a resolution approving a contract between the City of Waverly and Nagel Signs Incorporated.
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-25, a resolution approving a contract between the City of Waverly and Nagel Signs Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa, for maintenance to the Waverly Business Park sign for $516.77.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. And any discussion? None?
Do we want to wait for Brent to vote? or-
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't notice he was gone. Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
We do have a quorum, so you could do the vote
Okay.
if you wanted to.
All right, then this is a roll call vote.
There he is.
There he
There
is.
he is. Okay.
Just in time.
So on the business park sign, Jones? Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
That was unanimous. Resolution number 2427, a resolution approving change order number 1 for the library addition and renovation project.
We're on number 4.
Oh, I flipped too many pages. My bad.
Stuck together.
Yep. Resolution 24-26. This is a resolution approving a plat of survey for parcel WW located at 2600 5th Avenue Northeast in Waverly, the great state of Iowa. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-26, a resolution approving a plat of survey for parcel WW located at 2600 5th Avenue Northeast, Waverly, Iowa, to add to Andrew DeMuth's existing acreage.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There is. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question. Is this just basically to include that building that the property boundary runs through into his section?
Actually, I think he owns the building and he's buying the acreage around him.
Okay, okay.
Yes, but it is increasing the plat to contain that
So it's
building.
all
Yeah,
in-
it's to bring that bottom part in. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Any more discussion? Plats are a roll call vote. So Carla?
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. That was unanimous. We turn now to item 5, Resolution 24-27, a resolution approving change order number 1 for the library addition and renovation project.
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-27, a resolution approving change order number 1 for the library addition and renovation project for the net increased amount of $23,225 to Huff Contracting, Inc. of Waterloo, Iowa.
Thank you. That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is. Any discussion? Appears none. That is also a roll call vote.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Thank you, that was unanimous. Item 6, Resolution 24-28, a resolution approving a lease agreement with Michael Sterling and Trent Sterling to cut and bale grass at the Waverly Municipal Airport in 2024.
I would move approval of Resolution 2428, a resolution approving a lease agreement with Michael Sterling and Trent Sterling of Allison, Iowa to cut and bale grass at the Waverly Municipal Airport in 2024 for $3,750 and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement.
Thank you. Is there-
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Where do these funds go to? Do they go into the general fund or do they go to the airport fund?
Airport.
Thank you.
You appear ready to vote? This will be a roll call vote.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
That's unanimous at 6-0. Item number 7, Resolution 24-29, a resolution adopting a social media policy for the city of Waverly. Do I have a motion?
Move approval of Resolution 2429, a resolution adopting a social media policy for the city of Waverly.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Let me first say this is a very well-written policy. I like it very much, but I might want to see if the council would consider adding on the comment policy, section 3, items that are protected information and must be immediately removed if they're on a social media site. I would include a section, item H, home addresses and personal telephone numbers of any city employee.
Okay, I'm going to take that as an amendment.
I'll second that as an amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment? You appear ready to vote on that. We're amending something that needs a roll call, so it needs a roll call. Carla?
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Unanimous at 6-0. We are back to Resolution 2429 as amended. Any discussion? You appear ready to vote?
Rafi?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Item 8, Resolution 24-30, a resolution approving a mail center lease agreement with Pitney Bowers of Shelton, Connecticut.
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-30, a resolution approving a mail center lease agreement with Pitney Bowes of Shelton, Connecticut for a SendPro Mail Center 1000 for the processing of the city's mail with an initial pay amount of $329.49 and a quarterly payment of $988.47 for a total $21,000 leasing cost over 60 months.
Second.
Any discussion? You appear ready to vote?
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Item 9, this is at long last the third and final reading of Ordinance 1139. And this is an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 569, 585, 609, 638, 664, 733, 791, 853, 866, 892, 931, 736, 932, 978, 1025, 1053, 1060, 1066, 1080, and 1137, and providing that general property shall no longer be divided on certain property located within the Waverly Unified Urban Renewal Area in the city of Waverly, county of Bremer, state of Iowa, that is removing non-taxable property from the Division of Revenue. Is there a motion?
I will move approval of the third and final reading of ordinance 1139 as read by the mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Carla, can we have a roll call vote?
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Thank you, that passed unanimously. Number 10, the second reading of ordinance 1140, an ordinance amending the Waverly Municipal Code, section 105.4.10 regarding parking regulations. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the second reading of ordinance 1140, an ordinance amending the Waverly Municipal Code, section 105.4.10, regarding parking regulations to add a new subsection 59, changing the parking regulations on 6th Avenue Northwest between 5th Street Northwest and 7th Street Northwest to no parking on the north side of the street.
Second.
Thank you. We'll give that to Jones. It was close. Any discussion? I hear none. Can we have a roll call, please?
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Item 11. This is the first reading of ordinance 1141, an ordinance amending Waverly Municipal Code, Chapter 105, by adding a new section, which will be called 105.11, authorizing the city of Waverly, in accordance with its police powers, to deploy, erect, or cause to have erected an automatic traffic enforcement system for capturing images and/or video images of motor vehicles that violate traffic laws. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of the first reading of ordinance 1141 as read by the mayor.
Second.
That's a motion and a second. Can we have some discussion?
Yeah, well, I had some notes here, but through all of the things that we've gone through tonight, I seem to have misplaced them, so I'll ramble on for just about 30 seconds here. I've never really been in favor of the automated traffic ordinance. My problem primarily is because I don't think it's fair. There should be certainly an opportunity for people to understand that there is an automatic traffic enforcement system in place and exactly where those cameras are. Councilperson Rafi mentioned to me that there are signs, for example, in Cedar Rapids that indicate where the cameras are. I have gone to Iowa City through Cedar Rapids probably 2 or 3 times a month for the last 3 years for my wife's cancer treatment. And until she mentioned that, and I was specifically looking for them, I never saw them. I did see them the last time we went through a couple weeks ago. They're not what I consider to be sufficient warning or a notice that cameras are in use and where those cameras are. So until that happens, I'm not going to vote in favor of this ordinance.
Chief Purcell, do you want to speak to this? If you want.
I will say before the chief gets up here,
Yeah.
Cedar Rapids does have them a little more tucked behind than the ones that we've seen.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there's a pole and there's a big black box sitting there, 1 or 2 poles after you see the sign.
I actually have a
And I
picture
see
of
them.
it, if people want to see it.
You didn't take that when you were driving, I hope.
No, this is actually on the DOT website, from the DOT website.
Well, there's also a big speed limit sign.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, people aren't going to get tagged if they're
Doing the speed
driving
limit.
the speed limit.
Or
Or
if you're,
driving
like,
up to
doing-
10 miles
yeah, 10
over the speed limit.
yeah.
So I don't know how obvious we have to make it for people that they're supposed to
I would
drive
have
the
big
speed
flashing
limit.
yellow lights saying there is a traffic camera right here, slow down. But that's not going to happen, so I don't think I'm ever going to be satisfied that there's sufficient notice to people that it's there. And my problem is that within a week or so, and I mentioned this before, I don't want to belabor the fact, but within a week or so, everybody in the city of Waverly is going to know where the traffic cameras are located, okay? So the only people who should get tagged, unless they're real idiots, are going to be people who are from out of town and don't realize that they're there, people like me who don't notice the signs. So basically what we're doing is we're generating revenue from people who are outside of Waverly and don't notice the signs and go over the speed limit. Yes, they shouldn't go over the speed limit. I understand that. People should obey the law. But to me, that there has to be a sufficient notice for them to make sure they know that the signs are there. If the point of having the signs is to have people slow down and obey the traffic laws, we need to make sure they know that the cameras are there and that the signs are there. And if we don't say, hey, you're going to get a ticket if you go too fast, and here are the cameras, slow down. I've had people tell me, well, it'd be stupid to show people where the cameras are because then they won't get a ticket. Well, that's the whole point, is we want them to slow down. So if we don't publicize where the cameras are, make sure that people understand that there are cameras so that they slow down, what's the sense of having the cameras other than to generate revenue from people who are out of town and don't know that there are cameras there? And to me, that's just not fair. And I know I'm on the minority of this. I'm sure we'll have a 5-to-1 vote, but...
Well, but the police often put their cars where they're not easily seen. How is that different?
It's because the police cars can move around. Okay, with these cameras, the cameras are in one location, they're a fixed location, and within, I'll bet a few days, just about everybody in Waverly is going to know where that location is, and they're going to slow down when they get there and then speed up when they go past, okay? When you're in a police car, you can park anywhere. Everybody has an equal opportunity to get ticketed. That's basically what it amounts to.
But if they figure out where the cameras are and slow down, isn't that the point? Isn't that what
Yes,
we want them to do?
exactly, and
yeah.
that's why I'd be in favor of it if we make sure that everyone, not just people who lived in Waverly, but even visitors to Waverly, it's the first time they're here, are fully aware, and we have done everything possible to notify them that there are speed cameras, and here they are, you better slow down or you're going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
And I don't think having a little sign like this on the bottom of the speed limit sign is sufficient to notify people. That's my opinion.
I don't think it's possible for us to make sure that every single, even if we had flashing yellow lights and a big arrow that said this is a traffic camera, slow down, I think there would still be people who were not aware, who would say, I didn't know there's a speed camera there.
We have big flashing lights to warn people that there are crosswalks.
Yeah,
and they still don't notice it.
They don't stop.
No, I agree with you, Brian, that's why I'm not in favor of speed cameras.
The standard is, we have to be able to educate everyone, we can do so much, but if we can get 80% of people aware of it, that's probably a pretty good success rate. I'm in favor of traffic cameras because I feel like it is more equitable than a police car sitting out, like deciding who to pull over. If they go to pull over one person and the next 5 people who go through, they're not getting caught. The speed camera will catch every single person. It is safer for the police officer. They do not have to walk up next to a car and worry about, is this person packing heat? It is much safer for them. It is more equitable. I think traffic cameras are just a better way to handle this sort of enforcement. Police officers can be doing other things. We are freeing them up from speed duty so they can be dealing with other emergencies as they come up. So, I agree, I don't like this as a revenue generating tool, but I think it is a very important safety tool in terms of getting people to slow down, and it enforces everyone equally. There's no,
See, that's where I disagree with you. It's not.
Well,
How does it not? If it tags your car if you are driving a certain speed?
It only enforces people who aren't aware that there's a traffic camera there.
Or aren't aware that they're supposed to be driving the speed limit?
Or has a visible license plate.
Or you have to put up a sign that says you can't run this light.
And we're, okay,
I think I appreciated when Chief Purcell first presented this to us. I thought it was, we'd done the sort of trial run. They'd identified not a dozen places in the city, right? But a few places in the city where people tended to speed or rolled through stoplights. And they also looked at where was an unsafe place for an officer to stop somebody, like on the Indy 500 drive between the Casey's and the city limits. I used to commute there, and it's people are driving way too fast, right? And so they chose thoughtfully which places in town were the highest risk. And I think if you put a sign at the city limits, you put a sign before the camera, you put up speed limit signs. Everybody who drives through Chester, Iowa knows that there's a speed camera, okay? Most people who drive through Cedar Rapids know they have speed cameras. Did I know where they were until my car started telling me where they were? No, but I'm not a speeder typically, and I'm especially, now I know I can go 10 miles over. I was always paranoid thinking they were gonna tag me if I was 5 miles over.
Feeling bad when I was doing 56, I was worried to get bumped.
I could safely drive 10 miles over, but I think our whole goal was to try to make people drive more prudently, to reduce the risk of pedestrian fatalities and injuries. That's why we put the crosswalk up in town, the lighted crosswalks that a lot of people choose to ignore. You can only do so much. I see this as a safety issue. The revenue generation is nice, but it's secondary to hopefully how it will change behavior. And I hope people figure it out and they start driving more prudently. That's the goal. And so I think it's a good idea. Just like I think wearing your seatbelt is a good idea in your car and wearing a helmet if you're on anything with wheels, right? Those are all things that the government has decided are worth putting in place for people who make bad choices and end up in the ICU. This is one way that we can try to prevent people from getting hurt or injured. And I don't see it as an invasion of people's privacy. As the chief told us last time, do some people put plate guards or whatever they are? Yes, but should we make a decision based on a few people who do something like that? No, I'm in favor of this.
And see, again, I've spoken out against, I'm not in favor of this. I don't think it's equitable. Safety-wise, it may slow people down at the spot where the camera is, but I don't think that's gonna cause them to not hit the gas after they get past that. You can see it in Cedar Rapids. They slow down where the cameras are and they zip right along in between them, and then they slow down again, and then they're flooring it again, okay? I don't know that it may help right there, but to me, you end up with more of an accordion type of effect of cars speeding up and slowing down, and the people that aren't aware of what's happening don't quite know how to judge to stay with traffic.
Well, we'd have to look
Because suddenly everything's slowing down, and then all of a sudden they're speeding back up.
We'd have to look
again.
at Cedar Rapids accident data, which we don't have.
You can't compare Waverly to Cedar.
No, you can't.
This isn't 380.
No, it's not 380, but it's.
You're talking about slowing down, coming in by walk.
We already have, but part of our problem we have is our stop lights are such that on 4th Street, if you're going out of town or coming into town, if you hit one, you're hitting at least 3 of them, if not all of them. If you get through it green, you're probably gonna get through the others green. It's just how it is. And people know that, and so they start to see, oh boy, I'm getting close to that, getting yellow on me, I'm gunning it a little bit more, and I'm gunning it a little bit more, and that's where our speed issue is. I think there's lots that we can do as far as you know, I wish we could do more in terms of things. One of the things, I would love to take the licenses away from people that don't know where to put the renewal sticker on their license plate. It's marked on the little thing when they get it from the auditor's office, it's right there in the corner, and we have all these little decorations all the way around. If you don't know, if you can't figure that much out, you shouldn't be driving. I'm sorry, there's just, it's a problem.
You might be able to program a camera to pick it up.
But my other concern is right now we're saying we're gonna set it at 11, okay, and it's not a revenue generating thing, but we're making a contract with a private company that is trying to make money off of this, which is a problem I have, that a private company is making money off of citizens, of our duty to protect our citizens, and I don't really like giving the private company the revenues, profits from that. That should be our responsibility. But then what happens if, okay, yeah, we do get everybody to start slowing down? Is that private company gonna sit there and go say, hey, I'm glad you still got our cameras, we're not making any money off of you, just keep our cameras? No, they're gonna come back and say, lower that down, let's get it down to, 8 miles an hour so we can get some more.
That's why we have a city council that votes against that then.
Yeah,
if we
but
don't want that.
if the council's gotten used to getting the money, that's, and I
Well,
know
give us a
we're.
little more credit than that, right? That we're just money hungry.
Nowhere in the budget is there any revenue from this. I just want you
Yeah.
to know, we
Yeah.
separated it completely. The budget is not relying on any speed camera, anything, because it's not dependable. So
Well-
I just want that to be known, so people out there aren't freaking out.
And that would be if.
There is no revenue in here for
That's
speed
right.
cameras.
Even though I'm not supporting it, I would want to offer a resolution or an amendment that any revenue from this goes into the police department budget.
Police,
Only.
fire, ambulance was always my intent, first responder.
I would like to add, I've been on the fence on this, and I'm probably the heaviest footed one here. I'll probably take more tickets than all of you combined, which is my, that's my problem. I'm heavy footed. I'm a little bit opposite. Those kids were tugging at my heartstrings on this pool. What's convinced me to support this is any dime we can raise. And yes, it's not in the budget, but it is gonna contribute, the $75 times the 6 weeks that you did this, it's 250,000 gross. I mean, I don't know what our cut of that is.
About 70% is what we're kind of figuring. Is that accurate, Rich? They're taking about 30% roughly? Yeah. So about 70% would be our take on that. Because that's their fees and maintenance.
If this would offset a salary, it's worth it. And there is the added safety. There's, you know, obviously some safety benefits. So what swayed me from being on the fence or even a no is if we had the money to keep the pool open or keep that job. That's where I think it's worth it. It's giving you up to 9, 10 miles an hour. That's fast. That's fast enough. You know, if you're going 15 over, you should get a ticket.
And it's a bargain for you, because it's half the price
It's half the usual ticket.
It's less than that.
It's not so bad.
It doesn't go on your record. It doesn't go on your record, so if you're gonna get, a ticket, this is the ticket you want.
Right.
Chief Russell, do you want to speak to this?
I would also point out, this is not a regressive tax. I mean, when we talked about the franchise fees, where it's hitting a lot of people who can least afford to pay it, you know, if you're doing 40 miles an hour down Bramer Avenue, I think you can afford to pay it. If you're wasting gas like that, speeding up and slowing down when you see the traffic cameras.
Do you desire to speak, Chief?
Can he speak with us, without us interrupting him?
I've never seen it before.
I'm available for questions. We addressed this in August study session. We talked about it in the budget. I think a lot of the conversations I've had is, the potential need for the city of Waverly, why we'd want them. I can maybe talk more about the ordinance tonight. That's one of the things that we're looking at. And I know it's a lot of information. I think it was 20-some pages that I inundated you guys with. I just want to highlight the last page of, and what I've tried to do, everything you guys say is really important, and I kind of agree with most everybody's comments. It's just at what degree and what level. And so I've tried to draft the memo, and I tried to draft the ordinance with everybody's input. There's some of you that are comfortable with it, some of you that will never be comfortable, but I'm hoping to kind of soften those that maybe aren't comfortable with it by some guidelines. And so I just want to go over the guidelines, and I think it's important to the public to hear some of these things. The use of the ATE is intended to supplement personnel resources, but not to relieve officers from traditional traffic enforcement. Now, Brent, you may not get a ticket from a civil infraction from the ATE, but law enforcement will still be out there, and so you can get it for 10 over, 8 over.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're still going to be out there. This is my thinking on the ATE is because we do get busy. We are in other areas of town. We're having to respond to other calls for service. Is what can we do to address the egregious violations when law enforcement isn't around? And that's where the threshold is came from. That 11 or over is, we want to stop the people that are going, where's an officer when you need it? That's kind of my thinking behind the ATE. Not to take away the work of law enforcement, outsource it. We're just outsourcing the paperwork, the documentation. And that goes into the other issues or other guidelines, is that we will maintain supervisory control of the ATE. So there'll be no civil infraction issued out to any citizen without approval of a certified peace officer. So they have to watch the video, they have to watch and look at the photo, and then it is a certified peace officer that makes that determination. I think the other thing that's important is that every citizen that receives one has the ability to contest it. And that contention, or that you contest that with a supervisory staff with the Waverly Police Department. It's not a third party. You will visit with one of us to talk about the issues that happen. And you know what? It might be a doctor responding to the hospital, and you get pulled over by a law enforcement officer and they explain why they're in a hurry somewhere. you get a warning. And that's probably what would happen in this case as well. So there is that ability to contest these locally as well. And I put it in our guidelines, Tim, is that any revenue generated from the ATE is primarily going to be for public safety services. As James mentioned, police, fire, and ambulance is where that money should be going. Because the intent of the ATE is to help us not have to interact and do those traffic stops in dangerous areas, accidents in danger areas. So we want to supplement any revenue into those areas. And then warning signs, and I don't know if they're big enough. But warning signs will be used to indicate the presence of AT, allowing drivers to come into compliance before the enforcement event can occur, and provide fair warning to drivers of potential enforcement action. It is our intent to, I see the ones in Cedar Rapids, but it is our intent to, as much as we have to work with the DOT, because we have to do the forms too, and so we can only go so big.
Right.
But our intent is to work with the DOT and we'll have to get their approval of what signage we can use. But it is, there is no gotcha game in this. We are fully intended to try to have it as visible as possible.
I appreciate these guidelines. I think they're excellent. If this passes, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it tonight that it passed. I think it's good. If I were the dictator of the city, I probably wouldn't do this, but I certainly understand the arguments in favor of it.
What is the penalty for the red light fine? I didn't see it in there.
Oh, I think I had underneath it, so it's $100.
$100, okay.
Yes, and so, $100 civil for the red light violation, and if you were to get stopped by us, it would have been, it's a $210. So again, it's about $100 off.
Another question on that. If I'm northbound at Casey's on 4th, and I want to turn west on 10th.
Yes.
And I'm out there, I missed the green left turn, so it's the yellow.
Yes.
I'm out there in the intersection, I can't get across, and all of a sudden it turns red on me, and I complete my turn.
There would not be a civil violation.
I mean, there's
for that.
enough discretion there.
And so even
Car
right
behind you
turn.
will get it, but not you.
Even the
'Cause
right
he's raised
turns on
too.
red, in those areas, as long as the vehicle comes to a stop, it will recognize that. And then that's where, and then if you do your right turn, you wouldn't get a violation for that. But even if, let's say there is, and the camera doesn't pick that up, that violation, a law enforcement officer has to view the tape. And again, you get to where maybe somebody's rolling up and does the California roll, but it's 3 a.m., that officer's not gonna log off and say issue that infraction. It'll be just the same as if we were to see it at 3 o'clock. Now, 3 o'clock in the morning, they might get stopped because for other reasons.
That's not a good example.
That's not a good example.
Other reasons.
You're gonna get stopped.
Yeah.
Chief, we haven't talked about using this system to look for specific cars. Am I all confused and mixed up in my old age, or can you use this if you're looking like for an Amber Alert?
We could, yes. So we have asked a couple vendors, the most popular ones in the state of Iowa, to provide us with example contracts and agreements. In each one of those, we've asked them to include license plate readers, and what would that look like? And James and I haven't visited about the contract, but we will go over that, and we'll make a determination in which one to present to council. If it passes first and second reading, on the third reading, we'll bring a contract to you guys from one of the vendors that makes the most sense for the city of Waverly. In that will be, we'll have to make a determination if we want to do LPR or not.
Okay.
If we use LPR, yes, you will have the ability to punch in a license plate. If we get an Amber Alert, Purple Alert, Silver Alert, we can put a license plate into that, and so it'll recognize that. And if it does happen to drive through Waverly while that Amber Alert's going on, we will get notified and we can respond to that.
What's a purple and silver? I'm not familiar with
Alzheimer.
Silver is elderly, I think.
Elder, yep,
Okay.
and purple is mental.
So you guys will have
Mental,
local,
yeah,
local control of that function?
Yes,
So you could
yes,
flip that
yeah.
on?
right.
Okay.
You're purple and I'm silver.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
You have a motion and a second in front of you on Resolution 1141, Ordinance 1141, thank you. Are you prepared to vote? I don't know, Carla, let's make this a roll call vote.
Okay. Kangas,
No.
Rafi,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drinkow,
No.
Jones.
Yes.
I call that 4 yeses and 2 nos. The first reading of the ordinance passes. We move on to item 12, Resolution 24-31, a resolution approving Section 4, General Standards of Conduct, and the final handbook approval. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-31, a resolution approving Section 4, General Standards of Conduct, and the final handbook approval.
Second.
Thank you. I'll give that to Mr. Kangas, his first one tonight.
Okay.
Any discussion?
It's been a long night.
It has. Any discussion?
Just thank you for the work on this
Yeah.
to staff.
You appear ready to vote? Let's do this as a roll call vote, please.
Rafi,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
6-0, thank you very much. Item 13, Resolution 2432, a resolution approving a professional service contract with JEO Consulting Group Incorporated for the Waverly Swimming Pool. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-32, a resolution approving a professional services contract with JEO Consulting Group, Inc. of Wahoo, Nebraska for a facility audit, needs assessment, and aquatic master plan design for the Waverly Swimming Pool for the cost of $45,000 to be paid for by Capital Equipment Fund number 301.
Second.
Thank you. You have a motion and a second in front of you. Any discussion?
How was the JEO Consulting Group chosen?
So we've looked at a bunch of different firms that do pool work. JEO, Garrett, when he goes to the conferences, he sees a lot of these guys. We had a couple different firms we looked at, and one of the big things, the gentleman that works there worked for Burbach, which is the big gorilla of pool making. They do everything for everywhere, and he has now come to them. A lot of the pools that we have liked the look of, that gentleman's actually done them. So they just have a good reputation. They're doing pool work locally in other communities, and from a cost standpoint, they're pretty much right where we wanted them to be. So they will do a update of what the pool currently looks like, the cost to fix, cost to remodel, and the cost of new, depending on what we would like to have done, and hopefully have it done in time for the referendum, if you continue to want to do that in November. And that's the goal of this contract and the next contract is referendum.
So you would say based on experience and reputation?
Yep.
It looks like they've got ideas about how to get community input and staff input and,
I mean, we've gone through a lot of the community input already when MSA came through.
Right.
This is kind of furthering that to an actual resolution of what it will look like as we move forward.
In addition, this resolution got Councilman Drenko to say wahoo.
It did get me a little.
You'd be surprised how often I say Wahoo.
All right, friends, are you ready to vote? This will be a roll call vote.
Rafi.
yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Unanimous at 6-0, thank you. We're at item 14, which is Resolution 24-33, a resolution approving a professional services contract with Martin Gardner Architecture for the Waverly Golf Course Clubhouse. Can I have a motion?
I will move approval of Resolution 24-33, a resolution approving a professional services contract with Martin Gardner Architecture, MGA, of Marion, Iowa, for the Waverly Golf Course Clubhouse for design, cost estimates, and renderings, including the optional virtual walkthrough of the golf course clubhouse building for a cost of $31,300 to be paid for by Capital Equipment Fund number 301.
Second.
Thank you. You have a motion in front of you. Any discussion?
So my only question was, I noticed that they only talk about demolition of the clubhouse, so is remodeling not on the table?
I don't think it's a good idea. They've looked at it a little bit, went through it. They don't think it's a good idea.
Okay.
The way it's chopped up, it's not compatible. There's mold issues, we have plumbing issues, we have everything.
Okay.
And so I figured it was a better way to just start over, level that hill off, just make it a lot more accessible.
So it's based on their preliminary walkthrough and,
It's just not something we're gonna be able to save.
Right,
The
okay.
cost to do so may be worse than if we take it down and try to redo.
I'm not an engineer, but just being in, having been in that building, it's like a patchwork of
Oh,
things
yeah,
put
no, I've
together.
been
So
in there.
I don't see
I was just-
how
just curious.
remodeling would necessarily.
It's more
well, they're
Caddyshack
talking
than
about
clubhouse.
perhaps remodeling the pool, so I just thought I would ask.
Yeah, we tried to look at remodeling it a couple times, and when you're looking at adding possible simulators internally, et cetera, it just does not flow, and there's so many big areas that aren't used. It's just a lot of wasted space that could be better
Okay.
utilized. And this will be maybe only 2/3 the size of the one we have, so it'll be more efficient space too.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
I mean, if we could keep the deck, that would be nice, but.
We may go
that's about
single
it.
level patio. That's the initial indication right now. So these guys have already done almost $10,000 of pro bono work just to get started to see what it would start to look like, and they donated that to us. Because we started looking at this almost a year ago to see what could happen. And Garrett and I and Jordan stood out there looking over that hill, wondering how in the world is topography gonna work? And it doesn't. So that shifted things around. We waited for another year to get to this point with referendum coming, so we thought it was time to move forward. But they do have a preliminary floor plan concept already developed. It just may change now with what we've determined.
Is it normal to get that pro bono work ahead of time?
They do it sometimes. A lot of it was for them to be fact-finding too, to see what they thought they could and couldn't do. And so the walkthrough helped them also have a better idea moving forward. So they kind of chalked it up to a little bit of their investigation that they needed to be able to really provide a good estimate for us to even do this work going forward. And depending on what we wanted and the location, like I said, the topography's difficult off of number one, relocating it. They found it very beneficial to where they said, you know what, we'll just frame that for you, because we were not in the ability to pay it. We just were hoping to get some estimates, and for them to get accurate estimates, they went and did the work, and so they just said, you know what, we're pro bono that for you, and this is where we ended up.
Probably right off a golf outing while they're at it.
We did not. It was super cold that day standing out there, but maybe they did later.
I've got a question about this. If we are able to go forward with both the bond referendum for the aquatic center and the bond referendum for the clubhouse, will that be one vote, or are those going to be two separate items?
Have to be separate. It's not legal to combine them. God forbid we'd love to, but everybody would love to combine a bunch of things. So they will be two separate items on the same ballot, but not combined together because it's not allowed.
Okay, makes sense.
I would have requested it if it wasn't, just because the projects could be, you know, I'd hate to have somebody want to drag one down, both down because of one.
Absolutely.
So.
You have a resolution in front of you, prepared to vote?
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
That was unanimous. Thank you very much. We're at number 15, Resolution 24-34, a resolution approving a general engineering services contract with Bolton and Menk Incorporated. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move that we move approval of Resolution 24-34, a resolution approving a general engineering services contract with Bolton and Menk Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa for $100 per hour, up to 40 hours per month, with any hours over the 40-hour contracted price to be paid at a regular hourly rate. Up to $48,000 per year will be paid from the water fund, sewer fund, and general fund.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I've got some concerns about this contract. First of all, in the resolution, in the third whereas, it says up to 48 hours per year will be billed hourly. The water fund, sewer fund, and general fund, but if you actually look at the contract on section 3, where it's talking, 3A is talking about basic services, and it is proposing to perform these tasks at a reduced rate of $100 per hour for the consultant, city engineer, and other professional engineers for non-project related services up to 40 hours per month. But when you're going to paragraph B, it's talking about project engineering services, which I would assume would mean water, sewer, those kinds of things. It says they will be billed at their regular fee, which they have listed as the rate for the period through December 31, 2023, which is the wrong date because that's already passed.
They set their rates annually, so you're paying off of the end of the 23 season rates. So next year they'll reset them accordingly. This is a 5-year contract at that rate, is my understanding.
Okay, that's not the way this contract is written.
That's how it was explained to me.
Well, it's not the way the contract is written. I'd have a problem with that. And also, the rates were not attached on here. So the $100 per hour rate only applies to basic services and not to project engineering services. So the $48,000 would be if we did not have them engage in any project-related services.
Which is the goal. They are to be our internal engineer. I don't want them doing projects for us. They're watching the engineers doing the project, same as we would have internally.
Okay.
So they're not going to replace WHKS or Snyder Engineering. They are our eyes and ears, our certified engineers, so to speak, going forward.
So do they get involved at all in any projects other than, enterprise fund-related projects? Wouldn't they be supervising those also?
They would supervise everything.
Right. But that would be a separate charge.
That's what this whole contract is for, is for them to do the day-to-day supervision.
Right, except when you're talking about the charges here, that's listed as a separate charge. It's not the $100 per hour.
If we want them to do project work, it is separate.
Right.
We don't want them to do project work. If we said, you guys have an expertise here, why don't you do a project for us?
No, I'm understanding.
That's a whole different contract. We negotiate just like we would, and we outsource it for everything else that we do, because we outsource pretty much everything.
Okay.
So if we said do a bridge, it'd be no different than hiring WHKS or Snyder. We would hire them as a separate contract, and I would have a different firm oversee them. So our goal is to not use them for project work, which is why we chose them, because we don't use them currently for projects.
Okay, so if there is project work, they would not be doing oversight on that.
They would be watching the other firm hired to do it. So they would be our eyes and ears over WHKS, let's say, on that trail bridge.
So they are actually being involved in the, I'm sorry, I'm doing my attorney part here. And these contracts get to be really interesting, but, so they are actually overseeing the work on those. It's just that we consider that not to be project work.
Correct.
But that is
They're not doing
general supervisory
the project. They're overseeing it.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, and I don't like the fact that it has there, let's see, project not related there.
James, how did you come up with the 40 hours a month?
That was their proposal. I don't think we'll be close to that.
Okay.
So that was their number they came up with. A lot of the inspection work, we had internal staffing doing that, we still will. We told you before that we had positions we were looking to reclassify, reorg out, we did that. So the individuals that were doing that work are still doing that work, the day-to-day, et cetera. These guys will help oversee them as well as Justin McClellan, who they fall under. That's how it would be moving forward. No different than we do it today, it's just them doing it instead.
And this is a very large firm?
They are very large, yes.
So if we're doing one kind of civil engineering, we can get expertise from that field.
Right.
Was it especially poorly reconstructed contract, but talking about hourly rates, then under paragraph B, that the rates include vehicle and personal expenses and mileage. So my understanding, as just reading this, that they would not be charging us for mileage or those kinds of add-on things, but does that only apply if they are doing project engineering services? If they're doing basic services, since that paragraph isn't under basic services, are they going to also be charging us mileage and personal expenses and that kind of stuff?
They will not.
So that's actually in the wrong place in the contract.
Rod, I'm not a contract person with it. Like I said, they will not. That was a discussion we had with them. They have a grant writing division. If they have a standard grant that goes forward, they will not charge us for that. Again, Justin and I sat down, met with this group and other firms. This is the one that we felt the most comfortable with, and this is the contract they presented to us.
I'm not particularly comfortable with the language in this contract, but the same thing with the insurance, $1 million. You know, that's practically nothing anymore for a liability policy. If I were going to have something issued, looking at maybe $5 million as a minimum, but.
There is a 1 week out on this. If we don't like what they're doing, 7-day notice and we're out.
Well, I guess I'm not exactly sure why we're approving this contract when we haven't even made a decision. Technically, we haven't made a decision on what we're doing with the engineering department yet.
Well, in a sense, you did.
We did.
When you push this forward, unless you're going to find reductions to bring that position back in, you actually have.
Yeah.
So that's where the need this was. So we have a certified engineer on duty doing the project work that we talked, as Mr. Meyer talked about the last time he was here.
Well,
This accomplishes that role.
It won't make any difference because they're charging us on an hour-by-hour basis, and if we're not using them, then there would be no charge.
Correct.
So it's not a fixed cost. I would have an issue with a fixed monthly fee or something like that.
Right, and then others that I talked to wanted to do that, and we said no, because we will not utilize that enough. We needed an hourly basis, which is what they provided to us.
Well, I've seen a lot of poorly written contracts, and I would put this in the category of one of those, but since I didn't write it and I didn't negotiate it, I'll let it pass. I'll just give it.
Rod, I think really, if you look at section B, it's the project engineering services, which we're not using them for. And then continuation, the next page on the travel and all that, that's part of the project engineering services. I don't see the hang up on this. I mean, you got your basic services on A, that's what we're using them for. If we happen to use them for B, which we're not planning to, we have all these other costs.
Yeah, I would keep a close eye on the billings that we get, just to see what they're actually billing us for. I'm a little concerned if they're saying, yeah, we'll do this for $100 an hour. That's pretty cheap for engineering services. You know, what's going on that they're not doing or that they're going to bill us for extra? You know, I've always been concerned about approving a contract and then having a lot of things come in that were in addition to the contract that we're paying. And I know that happens and all of that, but you know, when we're dealing with a personal services contract like this, I think it could have been much better written, as long as we understand and they understand what it is the contract is doing. The fact that some of these are not particularly clear in the contract doesn't cause me as much concern, because if they have their reputation to uphold too, and if they're trying to pull some fast ones on us, that's not going to do them very much good. Right. And like you said, if we have an issue with them, we can always terminate the contract.
7-day out, it's the shortest one I've ever seen.
Which again causes me a little concern, but.
I just think they're confident in what they're doing, and if we don't like what's happening, we can simply eliminate it and move forward to something else. The other contracts we looked at too for these services had the same thing, 7-day out.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm not.
Have you talked to other cities that have had good experiences with them?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, they're well respected. As the mayor said, they're a large firm. They're about 1,000 employees. They have 30 offices all over the Midwest. We had them down to talk about some things. We looked at the water building. They have a solution for that possibly already. They've done one just like it. So, I mean, the background experience I have is substantial. So, again, they're not a firm that we've used, which is what we wanted. So we'd have somebody watching themselves as they do projects, or we eliminate somebody we've had good luck with doing projects in order to do this instead. So they become our internal engineer, so to speak.
Well, we don't always have citizens stand up, but I did let like 15 little girls, so. Mr. John Meyer, 1300 Shepherd Avenue.
And I guess that brings me some point of order sometime when we talk about it. You're allowed to comment on things that aren't on the agenda, but you're allowed to talk with things that aren't, but you can't talk about things that are, and I think that's kind of weird.
I believe the logic is that they're on the agenda and that's posted so that any citizen that wants to talk to council can do that before the meeting.
And really, I'm here because this is National Engineers Week too, and I wanted to say that. But Mr. Drenko actually caught the two things that I really wanted to address. The only other, that date, I think, is actually a typo, because I think it ought to be 24. That's, after writing a couple thousand of these contracts, that's typically what happens, but, you do it and you don't quite get approved. The concern that I guess I have is that if there's a small water project that needs to be done, and you gotta get a DNR permit, it'd be a lot easier to have these people do it as a project, and work with Justin and get it done. The thing is that those will be done at their regular hourly rates, and that's fair. The question I have is that work order that's done, will that come back to the council for approval, or will that be handled administratively? And I would urge that it is a council approval so that you can track the costs and see what that's going to be. That's all.
Particularly since there was no fee schedule attached.
Well, it should have been attached, and that's one of the things that they're probably working on at this very minute for the 2024 rates, and it was probably an oversight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. You have a motion and a second in front of you, Resolution 2434. Are you ready to vote?
I would add, to reiterate what Mr. Meyer said, we want to make sure that we're keeping track of how much we're spending on this, so that verifying it is a cost savings as opposed to having our own internal engineer.
Yeah, we have staff that do that on every project and every item out there. Justin has 2 of them in his office, and that's what they do. So it will be tracked to the penny.
Any other discussion? Are you ready to vote? Let's make this a roll call vote.
Okay. Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
That was unanimous at 6-0. Item 16, Resolution 24-35, a resolution approving a 2-year contract between the City of Waverly and the Waverly Police Protective Association. Can I have a motion, please?
I would move approval of Resolution 2435, a resolution approving a 2-year contract between the City of Waverly and Waverly Police Protective Association.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Just thank you for working with them and them working with us. And
you bet. Carla?
Drinkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
That was unanimous at 6-0. Item 17, your favorite mayoral appointments. Would you approve of the approval of the following mayoral appointments? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move approval of Robert Warham, appointment to the Waverly Public Library Board of Trustees to fill a vacancy with a term expiring July 1st, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? This will be a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Excellent. That was unanimous. Item 18, a discussion about the cancellation of the February 26, 2024 study session meeting. Can I have a motion to cancel that meeting?
I'll move the approval of the cancellation of the February 26, 2024 City Council Study Session meeting.
Councilperson Wolf, did you want to second that?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Okay, before we go ahead and cancel this meeting, we had a long discussion tonight about the safety issues on 4th Street and on some of the corners with stoplights to try to make those areas safer. I think that we should take the opportunity at this study session to talk about other things that we might do in those areas to increase safety, in particularly speed limits. 4th Street has, if we're having these many accidents and part of the problem is because people are going too fast, probably people who are actually obeying the speed limit may also be going too fast. And I think we need to have a discussion about whether this is time that we look at speed limits in some of the areas of Waverly that have changed a lot over the years, and maybe it's time to look at adjusting some of those speed limits. So that, I think, rather than simply not having a study session, taking some time to make that discussion at this point would be appropriate.
Would our staff have time to put anything together, information together for it to have that discussion?
Such as what?
Well, I mean, identifying, I mean, just a bunch of us sitting around saying, do we want to change the speed limits? I mean, do we want to talk about number of accidents on those roads? Or, I mean, do we want any data to drive the discussion?
Can we change the speed limits on those
It's
roads
actually
when
a
they're
DOT highway, we
state
can't
highways?
just change the speed limits.
No, we have to get approval of DOT.
Which I don't think they're gonna give us. That's who sets them, that's what we talked about them with already, the chief and I did on Highway 3. That's their deal, and I don't think they're gonna change them. I don't know, Rich, if you wanna elaborate, but we've had that discussion with them on the state highways, and they set them for a reason.
Yeah, when we, after the August study session, we did meet with the DOT and reference like speed zones and different things like that, signage. And they are the regulatory controller of the speed limit on Bremer and 218. So they have to go off of their engineering and their studies. I think they did offer that they would, if we wanted to, they would be willing to look at it again. We can, I suppose we could reach out to ask them if they'd be willing to do that again. I don't know their time frame on it or if there will be any cost, but
I don't know.
to do a speed study and to see if they'll be compliant.
Is that a?
North out of town?
No,
That's county highway, right?
That's county or.
Because that's the one that recently has just gotten to me is because of with the new school zone there, we go 45 and then drops to 35 for the school zone and then jumps back to 45 for about a quarter of a mile and then drops back down to 35.
Right.
And it's kind of like, why don't we just make it 35 from the start of the school zone north of town all the way in until.
I mean, we can certainly have the discussion.
That was just one that I've come in town that way multiple times recently and it's just kind of like, why are we doing that?
Right. So, and that's fine, you wanna discuss those areas, we certainly can. We just didn't have anything to report on for that day, so we just didn't schedule it.
If we need to have DOT input into this, would it be, is the procedure to say, hey, DOT, these are some areas that we'd like your input in to see if maybe we should be looking at changing the speed limits? Or is it better for us to make a proposal to the DOT and say, this is what we are proposing that we change, what do you think? I mean, how does that work?
The DOT has a mechanism that if cities, even citizens have concerns on speed limits, that you can approach them. And I think that's what James and I were talking about.
Right.
I think if we would have concerns, we wouldn't have any speed data related to engineering to give them other than maybe accident counts, what they'd be aware of anyway, because we would use their information. But they do take input, and I think they did reference a date, and it has been a while.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But we could certainly, but that wouldn't be anything that we'd be able to get together prior to the study session. But we could certainly reach out to them and see what the procedures are to reevaluating what that may look like on 4th and Bremer Avenue.
We can see if we can schedule them to attend a meeting and have it on the meeting they can attend and try and get them on the calendar if that works as well.
Yeah, I think whatever we need to do to be able to get something going on the process, I think it is important that we review that. And if the DOT says, no, we think the speed limits are appropriate, you know, I mean, there's nothing we could do anyway. But I think that it is worth, to me at least, I think reducing the speeds, particularly on 4th Street and parts of, well, there are a number of spots that I think we need to take a look at, and it wouldn't, I think it would be a good idea to be able to go to the DOT and say, what do you think about these areas? Is this something where we could make some changes to the speed limits that might increase or decrease the accident rate or increase the safety? So
It's worth an ask, it's easy.
if the rest of the council is not opposed to approaching them, I can put something together and email it to you, and you know, you and I can work on something to go to the DOT with, or whatever the procedure has to be.
I think we had open dialogue with the last meeting we had in,
absolutely.
I think it was September, possibly. Justin was there too, but, and they were very open to meeting, so we already started that dialogue, so we can definitely talk to them again.
Okay. Well, if the DOT says, yes, we think that the speed limits should be changed, does the DOT have the final say on changing the speed limits, or does the council say, yeah, no, we really don't want it to be 25 miles an hour, we want it to be
I think
40
the
or
DOT
whatever?
is going to set it. I mean, you may be able to object to it, and they may listen to you, but ultimately, they're going to go off their criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want something to happen that we don't want to have happen.
And so they would collect data
Yes.
about what the speed is
Exactly.
typically.
They look at the lay of the land, you know, curves, how many egress, and, yeah, they study all that, traffic counts,
Okay.
yeah.
I want to add a word of caution. We're talking about lowering the speed limit and doing speed cameras at the same time.
Yeah, I don't like the visuals of that either.
Well, he's one that was opposed to the cameras, so
Fair.
he's thinking maybe.
Okay.
this is
That's
a
his
different
cover.
option.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're not gonna have a discussion right now.
Yeah.
No, not right now.
I would point out that we've had a little over 2.5-hour meeting tonight. I think we earned a week off.
Okay, this is a motion.
Yeah.
We're at point 18. Voting yes, it says that we're not going to meet next week. But we could meet at another time and still talk about speed.
Absolutely.
Voting no means that we will meet next week and talk about speed limits.
Or something.
Or talk about
I
something.
don't think we'll talk about speed limits, doesn't sound like. 'cause-
Yeah, because
You
we're not
could, just
prepared.
not the state highways necessarily, but you
Yeah.
could.
Discussion.
So you didn't have any other
Press
agenda
business.
items for us for next week?
With little bits and pieces, but nothing pressing. We were just looking to take a week off,
Yeah,
just to
that's okay.
regroup a little.
Sure.
All right, this motion is a voice vote, so everyone understands what we're doing? All those in favor of this resolution having us not meet next week, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously, thank you very much. Council, you have in front of you 6 reports: the airport, planning and zoning, human equity and diversity, another human equity and diversity, Waverly Public Library monthly financial reports. Is there any discussions or questions or anything you need to bring up? Thank you. Staff updates.
Just have some brief ones tonight, sir.
Thank you.
I'll keep it quick. This nice weather, yard waste site's gonna be open for sticks and leaves on Wednesday and Friday afternoons from 1 to 3 this week, and next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1 to 3. And just a reminder, our normal start date isn't until March 25th, so we're kind of just getting some requests out there, so we're
Sure.
trying to get a little bit of pickup.
Yeah, well, thanks for helping out. I'm sure the citizens like that. How's the golf course?
Well, speaking of the nice weather, we are going to open for the season tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So, we'll be open more than we'll be shut down, so there will be more, you know, if we are closed on a day, Jordan will get that announcement out. For the time being, we'll be open 10 to 3 for tea times. Same thing though, we still don't have cards, won't have cards until sometime in March. So, then the other thing is, again, due to the nice weather, the dog park lights went up today. They still need to be inspected before they are going to be put to use, but that should be within the next day or 2. So then the dog park lights will be there. They will run whenever it's dark, except between midnight and 4. So they will not be on between midnight and 4. Okay, for the actual dog park lights. Parking lot light will be on all the time that it's dark.
Good.
That's all I've got for you tonight.
Thank you.
That's all we have tonight, sir.
Alrighty, city council comments. Let's start over with Councilperson Wolf.
I just want to thank constituents for showing up tonight and speaking. This is what politics are, and it's really important to hear from you, and so I thank you for that. And I will be at Get Roasted tomorrow between 11:30 and 1:30 for any comments on city council issues.
Thank you. Councilperson Rothi.
Nothing from me.
Councilperson Drenko.
Nothing further from me.
Councilperson Jones.
I just want to clarify, I'm heavy-footed outside of Waverly. Not True story. Country roads.
city of Waverly, we want your money too, Brent, not just those other towns.
And it was a tough meeting, as we all know, so I'm glad it's over.
Thank you, Councilperson Bergen.
It's a little late, but I wanted to wish everyone a happy Chinese New Year. This is the Year of the Dragon, which started on February 10th. One thing I wanted to suggest is the next time we talk about the fireworks ordinance, we could add Chinese New Year as one day to the year where we could add that. I might also suggest Diwali, which is part of the Hindu Color of Lights celebration, and Eid, which is the last day of Ramadan, also as celebrations that typically involve fireworks that we might want to add to our firework ordinance. So something to consider next time we have that conversation. And while it's a little late, I will still be at the Wooden Foot afterwards if anyone wants to discuss politics.
When we get those lights on the bridge, then maybe we can also use those lights to celebrate those holidays.
Absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Kangas.
I don't really have any. My only comment would be just on Brian's comment. I'm not sure if the state fireworks regulations would allow that.
If they're restricted just to New Year's.
I think they might just be restricted in that June to July range.
Even the New Year's range they would allow you. It'd be more broad than what the state would allow.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I'm not in opposition to it because
it's a conversation.
I do recognize that there are cultural celebrations that are out there that could include those. It's just I don't know that we would have the ability as a city to do that, and I don't know if I want to tip the state off any more than is necessary.
What else could
I don't know. Yes, Councilperson Knudsen, you have any comments you want to share tonight?
Probably just some brief ones. Just overall, thank you for the opportunity again to be able to be here. And obviously, this meeting was very different than the one 2 weeks ago. You know, I don't envy the situation that you all are in. But I do think that it's very important that the public understand that this is nothing of the city's making. This is definitely something that came, you know, from the state. I do have a question. Hopefully that's okay at this time. Just since Julie's not here and she'd be the liaison to the chamber, I was curious, and being a former chamber board member, I was wondering, how did that come through on the budget? Did that go down? Did that stay the same?
It was reduced 19,000 from the request to $35,000.
Okay, so it went down 10, okay.
Well, 19 from the request.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I guess I would just advocate that that's probably a little aggressive, a 22% decrease if there's any, you know, much in the same way that a lot of the groups that were up here talking about quality of life, that's something that the chamber is really about as well. So since Julie's not here, I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. But other than that, I don't know that I have any other comments. So thank you all.
Thank you. There's some things I wanted to make sure that we heard. There are 6 major funds in the city and a bunch of other ones, but 6 major ones. 5 of them are doing fabulously. The city is doing well. We are growing, we are getting new businesses. You know, this is not the end times. We're not going to be closing or anything. We have one fund that is being challenged, the general fund, but the city as a whole is doing great. Our debt load has been lowered. We are doing great. We have a very good staff. So we've had a lot of doom and gloom speak, and I just want to make sure everyone understands the city is well, just challenged on one fund. And I want to give my appreciation to the staff and to the citizens who understand that with the budget cut, we all need to look at what is best for the entire city, not trying to protect particular turf. That this is something we have to look at in the wholeness of the community. And that is just one way, Waverly, that you can be kind. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.